Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
And I couldn't, even after we got off the phone last night, I was like, I'm going to go to bed.
I couldn't go to
get
bed
a few,
either.
and then I just had to watch clips.
What time did I call you? Like 3?
3:30, something like that?
Yeah, I was just sitting in front of YouTube watching professional pool on TV going, what the fuck is going on? So, turns out, voting works. It's real. As much as we fucking thought they had it rigged, as much as we thought there was shenanigans and bullshit and it's just a puppet show and there's no way anybody could buck the system, turns out voting is still real.
At least partially.
At least if it's too big to rig.
Yes.
And clearly he was too big to rig.
Yeah. Wasn't it? It was crazy because it was like for weeks, especially in the close of the campaign, it was one of those things where it felt like, it almost felt like 2008 when Obama was running against McCain, and it was just so obvious Obama was running away with this. Everything you could see and observe, his crowd sizes, the enthusiasm, the culture, it was all behind him. But at that time, the polls were reflecting what you saw everywhere. Obama's up big. He's about to. John McCain's not going to win after 8 years of George W. Bush. The country doesn't want another war hawk. They want this, articulate, young peace guy.
Right.
And it was like that with Trump, where it's like all the signs are that he's clearly running away with this. But then every single poll told you, no, this is the closest election of your lifetime. And then it was just, there was a very interesting feeling to see it and be like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. I was observing all the things I was observing.
Do you know what Trump told me about the polls?
No, what?
He's like, they're bullshit. They don't do anything. You give them money, they come back, they have these results, you don't know.
He was like, they charge 500 grand for,
he's right.
Yeah.
He was right. And the media gaslit us to the absolute limits of their ability. The absolute limits. Joy Reid spent the entire time she was discussing Trump the other day comparing him to Mussolini, Stalin, Hitler, talking about a right-wing authoritarian regime, as if he had never been president for 4 years and didn't behave like any of those things. Yeah. As if the economy wasn't booming, as if people weren't making more money, as if we weren't involved in any new conflicts overseas, no new wars.
And I mean, I could point to a lot of things Trump did in his 4 years that I think were bad, but they were things that were similar to Obama and Bush. And you know what I mean? It wasn't different.
He could point to them too. You know, when I talked to him about what it was like to actually govern for the first time ever, it's a daunting task. He was telling me about the thousands and thousands of appointments he had to make, thousands of people he had to pick. He didn't know who any of these people were. He had to trust people that he knew, and he didn't know who was telling him the truth and who was just trying to get the system moving along in the exact same direction. And he got bogged down with a lot of that shit. It took forever for them to weed it out. Which is the crazy thing about being president. It's the hardest job on the planet, and you start it without any knowledge of it.
Well, and I mean, a little bit of that's on him because there were some people who he probably should have known. What I didn't like in his answer about that to you is that then he kind of pivoted to talking about how John Bolton was actually really good to have there because
he was terrifying.
He's terrifying and he's crazy. Oh, this guy wants war with everyone. But the problem is that, like, that's not how it went down. John Bolton ruined the North Korea deal. It's not like it was successful and the North Koreans were so scared of John Bolton that they wanted to talk to Donald Trump. They were at the meeting. They were willing to talk to Donald Trump. And then John Bolton came in and they were like, well, these guys are psychopaths. I don't want to make a deal with them.
That
and
mustache alone.
And I will say, look, man, I was rooting for Trump last night as much as anybody in this country was.
Not as much as Tony Hinchcliffe.
Okay. Second most. Second to Tony Hinchcliffe.
Tony Hinchcliffe. More Puerto Ricans voted for Trump than ever by up 26%. He was so
well, but wasn't it? And wasn't that just one of the? It was. Look, there's obviously a huge series of these things where the Democrat establishment and the corporate media, but I repeat myself, it's death by 1,000 self-inflicted wounds.
Yes,
but. It is almost as if it's like their whole thing relies on lies.
Right.
It's just all lies. And they have their eyes shut and their fingers in their ears and they're going, no. Nope. We're just pretending reality is the thing we want it to be.
Exactly.
They don't want to get slowed down by this force that is objective reality. And so all of it, whether it's Joe Biden's sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris is joy.
Yeah.
You know, Donald Trump is Hitler. Tony Hinchcliffe was a man at an event who made some comments.
Did you see?
He wasn't really. That wasn't a comedian who was ribbing everybody.
Not only that, but an insult comedian. A comedian who's famous for insulting people.
And we're supposed to act like this, it's not 2024. Like, we didn't all grow up on Don Rickles, and we all know exactly what Tony Hinchcliffe is doing.
Did you see the clip that the mothership posted? It's on my Instagram.
No.
So they're talking about the comedian who made jokes about Puerto Rico while Tony's on stage on the other screen. So Tony's on stage at the mothership while this guy's talking about what Tony did on CNN. And they're going over like the Puerto Rican population and how they voted.
Oh, it's
Just
so
pull
funny.
it up because it's fucking
that's
crazy.
so great.
We were watching it and Metzger was back there. The whole green room was packed. We were having the best fucking time. There should have been a camera on the green room last night. It would have been the greatest reality show of all time. Brian Simpson and Tony Hinchcliffe and Hassan. Everybody's cracking jokes. Metzger. Look at this.
Oh, dude, that's so great. That's the
Listen, Metzger. I just said after that, we're in a simulation for sure.
Yeah, it does
said,
feel
like
that
we're
way.
it's on the video. I said we're in a simulation. It's 100%.
Well, it's just like, it is just unbelievable, man. Like the false reality that they were trying to present while you're watching what's actually going on, and seeing that it's like there was just an enormous shift, like culturally, from say even 2016 to now. And I thought one of the big indicators to me, I was talking about this a bunch on my show over the last couple weeks, since the Garden event, whatever that was, a week and a half ago, and dude, there were no protesters.
No.
And that to me was so wild.
It was all gaslighting.
It was, but I'm saying, like, if this was happening in 2016, if in 2016 Trump came to Manhattan to give a speech, there would have been like thousands of protesters.
I was there actually in 2016 when that did happen. Everyone's talking about how AI is going to change the world, but what if that's not always a good thing? What happens if insurance companies use it to jack up your premiums based on your WebMD history? What happens if HR departments use it to make hiring decisions based on your browsing history? What happens if politicians use it to sway your vote based on your online activity? I'll tell you what'll happen. You'll wish you had started using ExpressVPN today. ExpressVPN is an app that encrypts 100% of your online activity and reroutes it through secure servers. That means no one can see what websites you visit or what apps you use. Not data brokers, not shady marketers, not even your internet provider. Your private browsing data can never be used against you because it's totally off the record. ExpressVPN is incredibly easy to use, and it works on every kind of device. Phones, laptops, tablets, you name it. It's also extremely fast, so it won't slow down your streaming or gaming. And it even comes with a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. It's no wonder that the top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge all rate ExpressVPN as the #1 VPN on the market. So don't wait to future-proof your online privacy. Click my special link down below or scan the QR code on screen to get 3 extra months of ExpressVPN's unbeatable protection for free. Just go to expressvpn.com/RoganYT. That's expressvpn.com/RoganYT to get 3 extra months totally free.
Right.
I was there the day that he won. I was there for the UFC.
Right.
So the next day, we're walking down the street in Manhattan, and people are chanting. This guy was saying, Donald Trump, KKK, anti-black and anti-gay. He's like,
not a terrible
it.
chant.
It was terrible. It was the biggest cuck ever. It was like the super cuck. The guy was a super cuck. He was one of those guys where you're just like, look at you. Yeah, I wanted to follow him around. I'm like, you're amazing. You're a gift. Keep talking. Just let me listen to you.
Like, what's your life like after this?
2 black guys started walking towards his way. He started chanting Black Lives Matter. As soon as he saw the black guys, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. I was like, this is amazing. I stuck right behind him. Me and Cam Haynes, and I think Tony was there too. And we were just, this is crazy. This is crazy.
But they don't seem to have that in the same way.
It's all
the
bullshit.
shock troops aren't there for them anymore.
It's bullshit. First of all, back then they didn't know what he was going to do and what he did economically. Chamath has the best way of explaining it. He said it was the right message, it was the wrong messenger. But if you look at the actual actions and were they good for the economy, were they good for the United States? They were. But it's Donald Trump as the messenger was so polarizing that people lost what's really going on just based on who this guy is, who has, like, just like Tony Hinchcliffe is an insult comic, Donald Trump's entire career is, you're fired.
Yep.
You're a loser. Rosie O'Donnell's a loser. Like, that's his whole shtick. And you expect him to course correct once he gets into office? No, he's not. That's not who he is. You elected that guy. But along with that, now you get RFK Jr., you get Tulsi Gabbard, you get Elon Musk, and you get J.D. Vance. You get brilliant people who aren't ideologically captured, two of them who used to be Democrats, one of them that probably knows more about environmental polluting and about the problems with pharmaceutical drug companies and health and the consequences of all sorts of pesticides and herbicides, ingredients in your food that should be banned that are banned in another country. You got that guy in there now.
Yep.
And we got a real chance to make real change. This is like one of the first times ever where there's a real chance to make real tangible change that's going to be for the good of everybody.
Yeah, and
he's got to unite people. He's got to not attack the left and not attack everybody. Let them all talk their shit, but unite. Now it's time to unite everybody.
Well, 100%. And then there's even more guys. I mean, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yes, Vivek.
David Sachs. I mean, he's got some really smart guys who
Vivek
are
is a
very
wizard.
successful,
Yes.
who are really Vivek's incredible. Just excellent and totally brilliant and so right about so many of the major issues.
Yes.
And look, I mean, Donald Trump now, he has a real mandate, which is like, this is kind of what's crazy. This isn't 2016 where, you know, he lost by several million votes in the popular vote, but won the counties that were important and just by the skin of his teeth got in. This is like, I mean, the last I looked, he was up by over 5 million in the popular vote.
Yeah, 5 million in the popular vote. And what was it when I went to bed? It was 312.
Yeah.
He had 312 electoral college votes.
Yeah, with still, I think, a few states, Arizona, I think hasn't, you know, finished yet. And so it might even rack up higher than that. But the mandate is, like, very specific. It's like the basic policies of, like, okay, immigration control. Can't just have an open border with no control of who comes into our country. A desire to get out of stupid foreign wars.
Yes.
You know, and obviously improve the economy, deal with inflation, things like that. But he's got a mandate to do that right now, and he's got some great people around him. Listen, I was rooting for him as hard as anyone except Tony Hinchcliffe last night. But I will say now, I think now till January 20th, the pressure should be on Trump to do better on the appointments than he did last time. He's got a lot of better people around him than he ever had in 2016 or 2020, but he was floating out Mike Pompeo as the Secretary of Defense, and he did have Mike Pompeo speak at his final campaign event. And to be clear, Mike Pompeo is Liz Cheney's pick for defense secretary. It's Hillary Clinton's pick for defense secretary. And so much of this will be lost if he puts that guy in there. He needs to keep all of the Lindsey Grahams and the Mike Pompeos and all of these guys away from his administration. Bring in the non-interventionists, man. No one wants to fight these stupid wars anymore. And that's what you ran on and won on.
I want Lindsey Graham to start a podcast.
That I'd be fine with.
We got to get those minerals. There's some expensive minerals over there in Ukraine. Tim Dillon was doing an impression of him yesterday. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Dude, I don't even like, maybe I should. No, he deserves it. But did you ever see the thing when he was running for president? Where he was talking about.
He ran for president?
Lindsey Graham ran for president.
That's amazing.
In 2016.
Imagine
and
the
remember,
hubris.
I think Trump gave his phone number out. Or something like that.
Did he really?
Yeah. You don't remember that?
No.
It was like, because he was like attacking Donald Trump for probably not being an awful war hawk or something like that. And Donald Trump like said something about how he used to call him and ask for money, you know, when he was running for campaign, and then he just gave his phone number out. It's just the best. He made a senator change his phone number. It was just so great.
That's like a Chael Sonnen move.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's so funny.
Amazing. But he said Lindsey Graham was asked about being the first single president.
Yeah, never married, no
and
kids.
he goes, there might be a bunch of different first ladies if I was in there.
Right.
Like,
yeah, sure, buddy. First of all, that's the last thing you say if you're a man and you're heterosexual. You say, I'm trying to find a good woman.
Yeah, really.
I'm trying to just find one good woman that I can grow with and that I love with all my heart. Just one good woman. I know that she's out there. That's what you say.
Yeah, you don't.
Might be a bunch of first ladies. I'm going to get divorced and married and divorced and married and keep on scooping up them minerals in the Ukraine. I got to give those minerals to the Russians. We're just walking around with women's panties on and shit and high heels. I'm the president.
I mean, listen, I wouldn't.
I'm the first lady too. I'm gonna wear her clothes.
I typically wouldn't go after someone for that, but when you're a war hawk, all is fair. But he's got to keep those people away from him, man. And that really was his failure in his first term. And look, I do understand him saying, I don't know, he was an outsider. He had never lived in Washington D.C. He didn't know all these people, but he's had a lot of time. This is 8 years later, and he's got a great core of people around him, and those are the people to take advice from. It's like, Mr. President,
well, they're on
if you're listening,
they're on it right now.
Well, talk to Rand Paul.
Yeah.
Rand Paul will tell you who to put in those positions. Talk to Thomas Massey. I just saw he floated out Thomas Massey for I can't remember what position it was. That's great. Put those guys in there. These are the America First guys, okay? And it's not Mike Pompeo. It's not the war machine, dude. And also, you know, look, his rhetoric was so great on Ukraine through the election, and when he had the courage to just say, like, no, I want the dying to stop. That was one of the best moments of the entire campaign. But his rhetoric on Israel has been very bad. And the other thing that you can't get around is that, like, listen, you can love Israel all you want to, and you can pledge to help defend them or whatever. But no, I'm okay. But Netanyahu is John McCain.
Right.
That's who he is. Right. I mean, he's Mike Pompeo. He's Liz Cheney or Nikki Haley. He's the guy who came over and testified in 2002 before a congressional hearing and advocated that we overthrow Saddam Hussein, and also advocated that we go have a regime change war in Iran, which he still wants to this day. He advocated we had the regime change in Libya, in Syria. I mean, he's John McCain. That's not America First. That's not, you know what I mean? That's not this, we're not fighting stupid wars anymore. So love Israel all you want to, but we're not with Bibi Netanyahu. That's something else. That's the opposite of America First.
Yeah. A lot can get done here, man.
I think so.
I think he can listen to those people. He has 4 amazing people around him, you know, that really have experience. Like especially Tulsi, Congresswoman for 8 years. RFK Jr. knows it inside and out. You've got Vance, who's brilliant. You've got Vivek, who's brilliant. You got 4 incredible people with him.
Yeah,
you know,
and then
I think he can get through this in a different way than he did in 2016.
I think there's real possibilities for it, and I think that's a huge component of it. The team that he's got around him, and I would also put Tucker Carlson in that camp too, because I think he is very influential on his thinking. I think in many ways he's kind of,
although he does think demons made nuclear bombs.
And look, 50-50 shot, he's right about that. I'm not saying but when it comes to policy, I'm saying he's very spot on that.
I love the guy. Don't get me wrong.
No, me too. And who
he's
knows?
A little bit obsessed with demons. He said a demon attacked him. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Scratched him up.
I did see that, and I wasn't sure. When I was watching it, I was like, is this like a Halloween thing that
Jamie,
he's doing?
why are you laughing? That's so rude. He's a victim of demons.
That sounds like a fun thing that could, I don't know, what happened?
That's the thing.
Why
Like,
was he asleep?
demons never really get you. You know, they're scary. Like ghosts, they never steal you.
Yeah, it's true.
Neither do aliens. They bring you back. They always bring you back.
It's like
They borrow you for a little bit. They freak you out.
Do you think like demons are bummed about that? Like they're like, did you kill anyone today? And they're like, we can only really scratch people.
Tucker thinks aliens are demons.
Yeah, I know.
Aliens are angels and demons. He thinks it's like this idea that they come from outer space is stupid. He said he thinks they've been here all along. This is like legit scientists that entertain this.
Yeah, I'm not convinced of that, but I do think he's really. I think he's great on war and immigration.
He is. He's a brilliant guy.
But I do think another huge component of why Trump's got such an opportunity right now is because, like, you see it where, like I was saying, the protesters aren't there anymore. And there's a whole lot of really interesting reasons, I think, for why that is. But also, and I was getting in an argument on Twitter the other day with Michael Tracy, who I do like and respect very much. But I was basically saying that I think this is going to be a death blow for the corporate media if Donald Trump wins again. And this is almost the best thing about him winning again. And he was saying, which is a reasonable argument, but I disagree with him. But he was saying, well, no, Dave. I mean, look, last time he was in for 4 years, that was the best thing that ever happened to CNN and MSNBC, and they got a big ratings boost when he was in. But I don't think that's going to work again.
I don't think it's going to work either.
Well, the thing is that so much of that ratings boost was completely driven by the Russiagate nonsense.
Right.
And what they were telling you at the time was that they had the biggest scandal in the history of the United States of America. Like, you can't overstate how big that story is. I mean, they were telling you,
was true.
Yeah, right. If it wasn't all completely made up, but they're reporting that a hostile foreign power has overturned our election, and the sitting president of the United States of America is in on it. He is involved in a conspiracy with a hostile foreign government.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest scandal in the history of America. And they, for anybody who wasn't aware at the time of how fake and evil the entire system is, they were like, well, look, they got a special prosecutor on the president. I mean, there must be something there. And hey, I just heard the chair of the House Intelligence Committee tell me he's seen the evidence and that he's guilty of this. And you had the former CIA director, John Brennan, saying that Trump and his family are going to be hauled off in handcuffs on television once Mueller's investigation concludes. And so for the regular person, especially for the regular person who really hated Donald Trump, it was pretty easy to get sucked into that. But after that was exposed for being a giant fake, and then the big one is COVID. I just don't think they can recover.
Let's pause here. No repercussions.
Yeah.
You want to talk about misinformation? We have to censor social media because of misinformation.
Right.
You guys spread misinformation to the biggest news organization, the biggest news audience in the world.
Yeah.
And you did it for 3 years.
Yeah.
You did it for 3 years. And then when it turned out that it wasn't true, you never apologized.
And didn't just turn out it wasn't true, but turned out it was actually
funded by Clinton.
Well, it started as opposition research.
Yeah.
And then the intelligence agencies jumped on that and decided, knowing that it was all bullshit, decided to use it to frame the sitting president of the United States of America of treason. And listen, a few episodes back, one time we went real deep into this, but that claim this is just a fact. They lied on the FISA court application to spy on Carter Page, who was a low-level advisor for Donald Trump, just an excuse to spy on Trump's campaign. And they lied to the FISA court. They omitted the fact that the CIA had already told them that Carter Page wasn't a spy and that he was working with them and that he was one of their good guys. As the FBI went to the CIA and they were like, we have information that says that the Russians approached Carter Page. And the CIA said, yeah, we know. He came and told us immediately because he's working with us. And then what they put on the FISA application is they said, we believe that the Russians approached him, and the CIA confirmed that was true.
Whoa.
So which is technically true. It's a lie by omission.
You're omitting the fact that he went straight to them to tell them.
Exactly. So that was, by the way, the only guy who actually got charged was the FBI guy who submitted that application. But
well, that's good.
But look, when you said there were no ramifications, right? You're right in the sense of like legally, people getting fired,
the news media.
Yes, but I'm saying this is the ramification. The ramification is that they're not going to be able to pull it off again, and the ramification is that look, they did everything they could to tell you this was a Nazi. This was the end of democracy. Yeah. He incited an insurrection, and the American people said, we already get that. You're full of shit.
They cried wolf.
Yeah. Too many times.
Way too many times. Way too many times. The Joy Reid stuff was working for Trump. It was working for Trump. When she's calling him a right-wing dictator, comparing him to Mussolini and Stalin. And then when Oprah said that if Trump wins, you may never be able to vote again. That is
it's just so ridiculous.
the craziest thing when you go back and watch him on her show where she was encouraging him to be president.
Yeah.
You ever see that?
Yep. I saw it, and then I saw when you played it fairly recently.
Hey, Oprah.
Yeah.
What changed?
Yeah, that's right. Well, here's what changed. All of a sudden, well, he became the guy who wasn't just funding a lot of politicians and being like a famous guy, and he became the guy who was calling all of them out and threatening to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
And that's really was his crime, is that he threatened the D.C. power establishment.
But it's crazy how many rich and famous people stepped in line to help them take him out.
Yep.
Like,
Well-
so many famous, influential people. And I give a pass to Cardi B. I give a pass.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think Amber Rose knows what Trump's real policies are. You know what I'm saying? I
Yes.
give a pass to some celebrities that come out. But then when you have some of them that are making videos, all the Avengers get together, like, hey, are you trying to get me to hate superhero movies? You trying to show me your real fucking weird personalities and get me to hate superhero movies? Why are you doing that? If I was running the Avengers, I'd be like, hey, guys, cut the shit. Do you think one fucking person is going to vote for Kamala Harris because they saw that Iron Man wants them to vote for Kamala Harris? Are you fucking crazy?
Well, it's so look, man. I mean, did they think that one Puerto Rican's vote was going to be flipped because of a joke that Tony made?
By the way, Puerto Ricans are known for being great insult comics.
Yeah.
Like Luis Gomez, great insult comic.
Yep.
The fucking Freddie Prinze Jr. was a great comic. Puerto Rico has a history of great comedy. They could talk some shit. If you grew up in New York at all, you know, Puerto Ricans can talk a lot of shit. And
Luis is one of the best shit talkers I've ever met. Also, garbage.
But it's
so
also,
Tony
it's
had a point.
Like Italians.
Yeah.
And I'm Italian. Italians and Puerto Ricans have a lot in common, that we talk a lot of shit to each other, so we don't get insulted that much by jokes. It's not the same thing.
Right.
Like, it's very hard to insult an Italian and have it stick.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You
Yeah.
can call him a Guido. Like, yeah, I'm a Guido. You can call him a greaseball. No one cares. You no one, go back to your country. No one's been there in fucking generations.
It's also my wife is Italian, and all my in-laws, her whole family is Italian, and it is like when you have a dinner, it's just everyone yells.
They're animals.
Like everything's a yell.
They're the Romans.
Like I'll literally my brother-in-law, who I love, is a great guy, super smart, but he will, if he's agreeing with you in a conversation and you were like in the next room, you would be like, is Dave about to fight his brother-in-law? Like, what's going on in there? No, he's just agreeing with what I'm saying, but he's screaming it at me, you know? But it is a thing where they're very thick-skinned. They're not like fragile people. It's one of my favorite things about them. Puerto Ricans are
some of
the same
best,
way.
Also, look at Puerto Rico. Some of the best boxers of all time came out of Puerto Rico. It's one fucking island. You got Felix Trinidad, you got Gomez, Wilfredo Gomez, you got incredible fighters came out of this one place. You have a fucking tough population, man.
Yeah.
It's not I mean, I'm sure there was a few people that were pissed off at that joke, but the reality is one of the things that helped Tony is that joke was based about Tony's concern for the environment. Tony is obsessed with recycling. He's like, you know, recycling's bullshit. You know, it all goes in a landfill. I'm going to put it in the blue bin. It all goes in the landfill. So Tony was obsessed with the Pacific garbage patch, and then he got obsessed with Puerto Rico because they don't have any room. So their landfills are just overflowing with garbage. They literally have a giant garbage problem. So he came up with a joke based around that. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
I was texting with him after it, and I thought it was so great. I mean, I thought even the bit that he did on Israel Palestine was so funny. He ripped both sides, and then he did. By the way, same with the Puerto Rico thing. There was an underlying really good point to it, which is always like the best comedy when you're just being funny, but at the same time you're like, ow. And he did kind of nail that too, where he was just like, why are we funding wars that have been going on forever? Like, figure it out, guys. Yeah. And then he just got a great rip on Muslims, a great rip on Jews, and so the way they picked out Puerto Ricans.
He's going on in the morning. There's no opening act. No one knows there's going to be comedy.
Yeah, the most difficult setup.
And there's no one on before him other than a prayer. They do a prayer. They were singing prayers and songs. And then the music stops, and Tony goes on flat to a bunch of people in the middle of the day.
Well, yeah,
the lights are on bright. It makes no sense. It's the worst setup of all time for comedy.
I remember in real time when I was watching it, like being like, I was like, well, I mean, Tony's not going to be able to do Tony in this setup, so like, I wonder what he's going to do. And then like as it starts, you're like, oh, he's just going to do Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
Good for him.
It's the
That's
nuttiest
ballsy.
thing. Should have never done it, but the fact that he did it, whatever. It's like, listen, man, there's going to be some people that tried to capitalize on that, and that was a big thing. Like AOC really mobilized, which is funny because I'm almost certain that AOC's been to see Kill Tony.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, almost certain. Almost certain.
Wait,
that
here
she's
at the
been in
mothership?
I don't think so here, but somewhere saw Kill Tony.
She probably loves it. They're all so
I
phony.
wonder who. Let's call him up.
All right, let's get to the bottom of it. Wait, we have access.
Call Tony Hinchcliffe. Hey, dude, you're live. You're live on the air right now with Dave Smith. I need to answer a question. I need a question answered. Did AOC ever come to see Kill Tony?
She says that she did, but we're almost positive that she didn't. I never met her in any of the shows in LA. I mean, she could have conceivably have bought a ticket to Madison Square Garden, but she never posted about it.
Well, she probably wouldn't post about it. It's too sketchy. Your show's sketchy.
Yeah.
But so how do you know that she says that she was there?
She tweeted that she's been to a taping. When all that stuff went down, she said that she's disappointed in me and she's been to a taping. I can't remember the exact tweet right now, but it was the day of the Madison Square Garden Trump thing. She posted, "I'm really disappointed in Tony Hinchcliffe. I'm a fan of Kill Tony and have been to a taping." Something like that. I don't want to misquote her like she would certainly do to me.
But she's been there and she was surprised? That makes no sense.
Yeah. No, nothing these people fucking say make any sense. They're out of their goddamn minds. And now their voices are quieted, thank God.
Tony, America's back, baby. America's back!
Believe it. Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. I gotta go, brother. I love you.
Rock and roll. Bye-bye.
Nobody who's ever been to Kill Tony would be disappointed.
It didn't matter.
And that
it
doesn't
was
make
a
any
political
sense.
tool.
Of course.
It's like if you have a wrench, here's a bolt. I need to use the wrench. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Like so, AOC was telling people, send it out in all your group chats, let people know. It's not. They're not.
But you can't.
They're not the most sensitive people. They're like resilient people. They're not going to. People are going to get upset about a joke, but they're also going to understand it's just a fucking joke. And then when they know, and then if someone does tell them, oh, Puerto Rico really does have a giant garbage problem. Like it's a giant problem, the overflowing land. You ever see it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. Look at the images. You're like, oh my God, you got to do something about this. You can't cover your island in garbage. This is nuts.
Yeah, look, it's. I just like I was saying before though, man. I feel like if you zoom out, like if you look at it closely, you would be like you said with the
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she said she's been to more
She's been to
than one.
shows.
Yeah.
Wow. Before people try to act like this is some PC overly sensitive nonsense, which is what it is. I've been to Kill Tony shows. I'm from the Bronx. I don't give a shit about crude humor. Then what are you doing?
Well,
Then what are you doing?
clearly
Don't pretend
you do.
that your support for Trump is a joke. Own it. You're doing a set to support him. That's a choice. Listen, you guys have a real problem with someone disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
And you want to, in any way, shape, or form that's possible, turn that person into a demon. You never want to have someone who has an opposing perspective that should be considered or maybe countered with better information, which is what we're all supposed to be doing. Ideally, with people of good character and who go into arguments with good faith, you should be able to respectfully disagree and have conversations with things. This is like everybody who thinks one way is bad. Everybody who thinks this way is good. We'll do whatever we can to destroy the people that are that way. Obama, there was a guy at the Trump rally that said that Puerto Rico is a pile of garbage. Those are human beings. Like, was that guy maybe telling a joke?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Is he telling a joke?
Well,
do you know what jokes are? You're my age. You know what jokes are? What are we doing?
Come on,
Bro.
like
What are we doing?
We all grew up on like. In the America of Howard Stern and The Simpsons and all this stuff. It's not like jokes are foreign to any of us.
Yeah, we all forgot about Superbad. We forget about Tropic Thunder. Do we forget how those things work?
Right. And, you know, and her point is so stupid. I mean, she's like, "Hey, you're a Trump supporter. Own it." It's like, yeah, he's speaking at a Trump event at Madison Square Garden.
There's nothing to do with the
But
joke.
I'm saying just the fact that he's there clearly already says, yeah, I'm supporting this guy. And then he's a comedian, so he's like, I'm going to do what I do here with it. You know, and if
Exactly.
if AOC wanted to come out and say something like, she'd go, listen, I'm actually a fan of Tony. I really like the show Kill Tony.
That joke was fucked up.
She goes, I don't think it's appropriate at a political event
And
to
she'd be
have
right.
an insult comic. That'd be a reasonable thing to
Yes,
say. Okay,
she'd be
fine.
correct.
But
I don't think it was
again,
appropriate.
yes, but that's kind of
fucking
that's on the
babies in the crowd.
campaign. That's on the
Yes.
campaign. That's not on
100%.
Tony. You know what I mean? And like, so, but that's not what she's saying. And again, it's like, you know, look, if you, to the point you were making before, right, about the Russia collusion hoax and no one getting in trouble for it. If you were to look at, say, the weapons of mass destruction lie that got us into war in Iraq, killed 1 million people, cost trillions of dollars, and tens of thousands of our bravest young men blowing their brains out, you know, just an unmitigated disaster. And none of the people who sold that lost their jobs or are, you know, they're not like, I don't know what they should be doing. Maybe like picking up garbage by the side of the road, apologizing to every car that passes them.
Well,
I don't know.
Let's pause for a second and compare. There's people that said that there was weapons of mass destruction. They willfully created this story. It's a fake story.
100%.
No one got in trouble. Trump paid off some lady who says he fucked her.
Yep.
And made a bookkeeping error. So he got hit with 34 felonies.
Yep.
Now, if you want to just be that person that says he's a convicted felon and just repeat it over and over again, understand that now you're changing what the law means because you don't like a guy, and that can be used on you. This is what happens in dictatorships. This is what happens when communism takes over a country and you get a military dictatorship. They just throw the laws at you. Yep. And they're doing it right in front of your face, and you're okay repeating it. He's a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon for 34 misdemeanors, which are all the same thing.
Which weren't really felonies.
Which weren't felonies, and we're past the statute of limitations. So
yes.
How much do you hate freedom?
Yeah, it's not, listen, none of the Trump legal charges were an example where, look, the former president of the United States of America clearly broke the law. And we don't want to politicize, you know, the legal system here, but it's so obvious he broke the law that we have to prosecute him. It was, we're coming up with a novel legal theory that we've never prosecuted anyone under before. And if you interpret it this way, then we could interpret this misdemeanor that's past the statute of limitations as a felony. So
now, how does this not freak out liberals who are obsessed with criminal reform?
Because that's not their side of the issue. Yeah.
Just think about how nutty that is.
It is.
One of the best things that I do on this show is when I have Josh Dubin on, who used to work with the Innocence Project and now does things on his own, where they're trying to find people that have been unfairly prosecuted by bad judges and by bad prosecutors and get them out of fucking jail.
Oh, can I just say real quick, dude, because if I don't, I want to make sure I say this while we're here, but to President-elect Donald Trump, dude, he came to the Libertarian Party convention this year, and he promised us, and a whole bunch of people, myself included, like supported him for this. And he did carry, I think, the Libertarian vote. And he promised us he was going to free Ross Ulbricht on day one. And like, if you're listening, Mr. President, if this gets to you, please come through on that promise, man. This kid has done over a decade in jail already. He was guilty of creating a website. You know, it was like a dark web type thing, and I guess some people sold drugs on it and stuff, but he's done 10 years, over 10 years.
Yeah, have you ever seen the documentary on that?
Yeah.
It's interesting because it does seem,
I know his mom.
It seems like he was railroaded.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it seems like they came up with some sort of a phony murder for hire charge.
Well, they accused him of that, but then they withdrew that charge.
Yeah.
He was never convicted of that.
Right.
He got life without parole for making a website. And I've gotten to know his mother Lynn over the years, and she's like the sweetest lady, and she's just in the middle of this nightmare. Like her whole life has been a nightmare for the last 11 years or whatever it's been. And just, I really, just please come through on that one. There's no political capital even to be spent on it. It's one of the best things he did when he was president last year, last time was, you know, freeing people who were just in jail on BS and way over prosecuted. And he said he was going to do it on day one. And I'm just saying, a lot of people supported him for that. I really hope he comes through. That would be amazing.
Well, we're going to know a lot about what he's going to do, whether he comes through or not.
Yeah.
That'll tell us a lot. If he comes through, I think a lot of people will be able to hear. I mean, wouldn't you love to see him on a podcast? Wouldn't you love to talk to him on a podcast?
Would love to, yeah.
And ask him questions about what actually happened.
Yeah.
Well, look, now that we know what we know now, like the FBI did this whole internal thing with him, and they used people and agents to trap him. But now what we know about what they did with the kidnapping case for Gretchen Whitmer, we didn't know that before. We didn't know that you could have a kidnapping case where there's 14 people and 12 of them are FBI informants. So you got 12 people working with the FBI, 2 retards, and you convince these dumbasses that they should go and kidnap the fucking governor, and they're like cosplaying. These guys are idiots. They might have been playing fucking game of Dungeons and Dragons in the woods. They're idiots.
Well, there's an old saying.
They're gullible people.
There's an old saying. It goes something like, "The FBI always gets their man because it's always their man."
Yeah,
you know, it's like, dude,
there's
there's been dozens and dozens of these FBI, what they call sting operations, which are really entrapment since 9/11, where they get, oh, we thwarted another terrorist attack. So but no, they didn't thwart a terrorist attack. They planned a terrorist attack and then thwarted it. Like it was never going to happen. By the way, a little note on that: every single time, I just find this fascinating. Every time the FBI wants to do one of these terrorist entrapment things, which again they've done dozens and dozens of since 9/11. Every time when they approach like young Muslim guys who are like on radical websites or something like that, every time they never go up there and they say, hey, how do you feel about America being free and prosperous? Or how do you feel about the fact that we don't have Sharia law here or anything? They never do that. They always go, how do you feel about American foreign policy? Look at all these innocent Muslims that we're killing over there in that part of the world. Doesn't that make you angry? Doesn't that make you want to do something about it? You see, like when the FBI wants to do entrapment, all of a sudden they know what motivates terrorism. They're not like, oh, you hate us for our freedom or the dumb shit that they say to the American public. They know exactly how to entrap these people. They go, how do you feel about all these Palestinian babies getting killed right now? You know, that's America's money and weapons that are doing it. And that's how they get them. But if you look at the first World Trade Center attack, was all just the FBI screwed it up. They were following it the whole time. And then they screwed it up, and they almost took down the towers.
And if we got to hear Ulbricht's story, I bet it'd be wildly different than the narrative that we heard in the courtroom or it was in the documentary. I bet it's wildly different, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got railroaded. Just we know too much now. We know about that case. There's multiple different cases. There's the Dallas case where they got that kid to blow up a building. They gave him a fake bomb and a cell phone, and he activated. They radicalized that kid. He was just a dumb, low IQ kid that's 19, fucking gullible. And they talked him into joining, and here's what we're going to do. And then they say they're preventing crime. Like, you're actually making it. You're making it and then stopping it. And that's fucking wrong. You're cheating. You're rigging the pinball game, man. You fucking, and we know that now. So it would be really interesting to hear his story. Yeah, 10 years is fucking plenty. Too much. Way too much.
No, you can never give that back to him. But like, just let him go free. And it's also just such a situation where you just, and obviously, like I know his mother, so I'm like, I'm kind of personally invested in it. But it's like, this kid is no threat. It's that nobody thinks like, oh, if we let him out, he's some type of violent criminal who might do another violent thing or something like that. Like, that's just not going to happen. You could just end the nightmare that this sweet woman is going through, and him, of course, too.
Okay, so we both agree on this, but let me ask you, okay, what about Snowden? Do you think he has the balls to pardon Snowden?
Well, okay, so the thing about Snowden, right, is that, and now the Julian Assange case has kind of been taken off the table, even though I guess technically he could still pardon him. But that takes real political capital. Now, I think he should pardon Snowden.
How so?
But Well, I'm just saying that, like, Snowden pissed off a lot of very powerful people. The NSA are furious about him. The CIA, they don't like him. And they do not want to set the precedent that you can release the fact that we're doing a bunch of illegal shit that we are lying to the American people about, and then you can go tell them that we are, in fact, doing the thing that we lied and said we weren't doing. They don't like that. There's going to be powerful forces that'll oppose you. Ross Ulbricht doesn't, it's not like that.
No, I completely understand. But
if he were to pardon Snowden, that would be a real signal that he is willing to take on the deep state. He's willing to take on the real powerful entrenched interests. Now, again, I'm not claiming to... It's obviously the right thing to do, morally speaking. But you got to have a really smart strategy if you're actually going to do this. You know, I remember one time... during the Ron Paul presidential campaign, I think it was in 2012, and someone asked him, you know, like a question about, like, when you're in there and you're president, are you going to tell the CIA, like, hey, you guys are done, and you're this, and you're this? And he went, well, I might say it a little bit nicer than that. He was like, listen, I am trying to abolish the CIA, but let's be cool here.
Well, let's just let's look at this for what it is. So if Edward Snowden, if he really did expose things that were illegal, that were not supposed to be done, and the fear of bringing him back is that the people that did the illegal things want to continue doing illegal things and don't want to have any repercussions for doing illegal things. That seems like a crazy thing to support, even for them to defend it. Sounds insane. They should want internal accountability. They should want to make sure that no one colors outside the lines, and no one does anything without congressional approval, all the stuff you're supposed to do when you're doing certain things. But the problem is now with the FDA and FISA and all these different laws that have been passed that allow surveillance to be done warrantless. Like, it's kind of a moot point almost at this point. Like, the things that you would, like, back then he exposed that they could listen to every call. They have data centers. Well, we all know that now. Like, everything's still functioning, but we all know that now. The guy that exposed all that, leave him alone. You guys you're doing illegal shit, and now it's kind of legal, and we still should be outraged, but now you can kind of just do it.
Yeah. Well, and also, and one of the things that was so disappointing about Trump not pardoning Julian Assange and Snowden in his first term, and again, a lot of that is because it's like when he told you, why didn't he release the JFK files? Well, because he was listening to Liz Cheney's pick for defense secretary, Mike Pompeo. People convinced him not to do it. But it's like, at a certain point, you're like, okay, first of all, the spying that Snowden exposed was weaponized against you.
Right.
You're like, they spied on you. So you kind of, I would think you have some, like, stake in being like, yeah, that should be exposed and should be abolished.
But don't you think he didn't pardon him because he wanted a second term? And he wanted to, like,
I think
make
that was
things run as smoothly as possibly, and try to
the thing is, he
compromising. They're making deals here.
Yes, but he also had a lame duck period. I mean, he had a period where he knew he wasn't going to have a second term and still had the power, but he was worried about the impeachment.
And he wanted to run again.
Yes.
He always wanted to run again. He was going to run again. He was like,
I think so. Yes.
Fuck you, I'm running again.
Yes. So there's a fair point to that. Maybe now Donald Trump gets in, and I do think this is what the corporate media and all of them are really terrified about, is that now he gets in and he doesn't need to win another election. I mean, he'd like to win a midterm election and keep I mean, he's got the Senate now. We'll see. The House hasn't been determined yet. But he'd like to keep, congressional control within the Republican Party. But he doesn't need to worry about a re-election now. If he really wanted to be the drain the swamp guy,
yes,
he's got an opportunity now where a lot of things have aligned where it's like, I think he could really get it done, and I think he could get away with it. I think that he's taken all their bullets, both literally and metaphorically. He's been impeached. He's been convicted of felonies. He's been shot at. He's been, like, all the things have already happened. He's been demonized in a way that no public figure has been demonized in any of our lifetimes.
And he survived all of it. Made him more popular.
Yes, he's stronger. He's stronger than he's ever been.
What do you think about that thing I sent you today that compares the number of people that voted in 2020 versus the number of people that voted in 2024 and in 2016?
Sure does look strange.
And in 2012. Have you seen it, Jamie?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I would say
I could send it to you if you want to see the exact
Still
chart.
counting votes.
that is a fair point. There are still votes out there. I'd like
Right.
to take a look at that again after 100% of everybody has been reported, but it does certainly seem weird.
Let's not get technical and let's just enjoy it. I'm gonna send you this, Jay, because it's so bizarre that I can't really believe it's real. When did I send it to you? Earlier today? Hang on a second, I'll find it. It's so crazy. You look at it and you go, is this real? Oh, here it is. Because it doesn't seem to make any sense, because this is like one of the most consequential elections ever. I think everybody's pretty aware of that, and everybody is very dug in on their side. The left, he's Hitler. The right, he's saving us. And so more people voted, at least the indication would be as much people voted in 2020, if not more. Probably more people voted. But let's look at the numbers. Like, look at the difference in how many people voted for Biden in 2020. It's unprecedented. It's way higher than any other time since 2012. And I'm sure probably before that, there was less people back then, right? So if you go back to when I was a kid, there was only like 200 million people in this country.
Yeah, and to be clear, 2012 and 2016 were not low turnout years.
No, they're
Like,
all consistent.
yeah.
This is what's crazy. They're consistent. Look, they're all like 60. Look at where the number is. It's all like 65 million. Is that what it says? So that's all the same every fucking time except 2020. In 2020, it goes way the fuck up. Look at it. It's like 80 what? Is it 82? Is that what it was?
It's like 81 and change. Something like
81.
Yeah.
So it goes up a fucking sizable chunk, and only once.
And it does seem like even with getting all the other votes in, you're not going to get to that.
But it's also like, look how many votes Trump got. He got even more in 2020 than he did in 2024. Mm-hmm. Like, what the hell's that about? Is that because they haven't counted all the votes yet when they made this? Or is that the reality of the numbers? Because that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah. And well, and you know, I just say, you know how in like the corporate media world, it's like this is the biggest crime ever to even ask this question. But you kind of can't blame us for asking it when everything you say is a lie.
The ballots that came in the middle of the night are weird. And the fact that you had mail-in ballots, that's weird. Because the thing about mail-in ballots is different than anything else. It's not a chain of custody. All right? There's a guy who drops it off, and then the postman gets it. And who knows what the fuck that guy does it. They used to be going postal. Postmen used to be scary because they shoot a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I don't know how they fixed that. But
That did stop.
Yeah, there was a
Good
time
point.
they were like fucking separating things by zip codes and like enough. And they were just killing everybody in their office.
Do you remember the old Seinfeld bit on the show?
No.
Where he asked Newman's a postman, and he's like, "Why do you guys always like go crazy and just kill people?" And he's like, "'Cause the mail never stops." It's so funny. It's just it keeps coming.
Yeah, that was always my suspicion. It's just like a mundane job that's like, and you're working with these people you don't like, and then one day like, I'm gonna fucking kill everybody.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of those guys who it became a term. There was a video game called Postal. In the video
really?
game, you just ran around shooting people. Yeah, it was a crazy game.
Yeah, that was a better time.
It was, but this was like the 90s that all this was going on, and something happened, and they stopped fixing. So my point is, who knows what that Post guy's doing? Like, you could just throw some stuff in the garbage. If you know you're in a Republican county, throw some stuff in the garbage. If you're a cab driver from some other country and you're over in America and someone says, I'm going to give you a bag of ballots, I'm going to put them in your trunk and you're going to go take them to this place. You're like, okay. You know, like, you're going to give me $500? Okay, I'll drop off these ballots. Like, when you're doing like low-level scams in like small counties where you have corrupt people that are working the voting machines, how many Republicans are paying attention? How many Democrats are paying attention to the corrupt Republicans? There's always been election fraud. Pretend that we lie about the very fine people. He said there were very fine people on both sides. Obama's lying about that in front of the whole world. They lie about everything. You don't think they would cheat?
Well, that's right. Exactly. If every word that comes out of your mouth is a lie,
right,
that you can't tell me that I'm not allowed to suspect. And also, you know, if what Rachel Maddow says is real, right? Like, if you're telling me your worldview is essentially that Adolf Hitler is running for president, it looks like it's a coin flip if he's going to win. That's what they were telling us, that it was 50-50. Turns out it wasn't. But Adolf Hitler's running. This is the end of democracy. It's on the ballot. We'll never have elections again if this guy wins. So if that's true, then why wouldn't somebody who's got a bunch of ballots for him cheat? I would do that. If Adolf Hitler was about to win, I'd cheat to make sure he would. If Adolf Hitler's about to win, you should do anything you can. So you're going to tell me on one hand, Adolf Hitler's about to take over America, and on the other hand, but no one would ever cheat?
No one would ever break the rules to stop Hitler?
The conversation that people, the dumb American pop conversation is, would you murder a baby if that baby was Adolf Hitler? You know what I mean? Like, that's the pop question that people ask about Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
And I think the implied correct answer is yes. You're supposed to say, I would murder baby Hitler.
I'd wait till he's 17.
Yeah, probably feel a little bit better about yourself.
Yeah, by the time he's 17, I'd know he's a piece of shit.
And you could run a real good experiment on, like, nurture versus nature.
Right.
Like, raise him loving, be nice.
Give him some mushrooms.
Yeah, there you go.
Fix that little fucker.
But anyway, but you're saying someone wouldn't. It's also, it's like, it's not even just that they're liars who are in the business of propaganda. It's that it's incoherent propaganda. Your propaganda doesn't even make sense. Like, if propaganda point A is true, then propaganda point B is impossible to be true.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm so happy that Trump won about, you know, is she just needed to lose. Like, this, there's a certain line of that they crossed that you're like, we need to be in a country where that doesn't work. Like, that can't work.
Well,
it's just too far.
Here's one of the most important precedents. You can't have someone that's running that didn't go through a primary.
Yep.
You have to at least go through and respect the process of allowing us to pick who our representative is. No one would have picked her. She didn't, when she was trying to run for president, Tulsi Gabbard nuked her out of orbit, and that was it for her. She dropped off a cliff, and that was done, and that's how it should have been until Biden picked her as his vice president. Get away from that. You should always have a primary. Like, if you really believe in the democratic process and if you really believe in the Democratic Party, you should want the best representative of your party as voted for by the population.
100%. And then
that you can't have someone bypass that, because then you have a complete puppet.
100%. And then in addition to that, just think about how crazy this is. You're going to bypass the democratic process, and then you're running on democracy is on the ballot.
Right.
I mean, this is just too much.
Amazing.
It's too much. You want to, like, punch yourself in the face. Like, you can't do that to me. You can't say that.
Well, they've been so used to doing it before. They had full, complete control of the narrative because they own the media. And they own the media for so long. They had the run of the roost for so long that they got cocky. And they didn't pay attention to the game as it was evolving. They're like a UFC 1 fighter that, you know, takes time out of the gym, then steps into 2024 and tries to compete against guys of today. Like, you missed the game. The game is way past where you were. And you guys are still doing goofy shit, like taking people out of context and not knowing that people are going to make YouTube clips showing what he actually said versus you. And it's going to undermine your credibility even more. Obama was my favorite president. He was the best spokesman other than Clinton of all time. Now I think he's a liar. Yeah. I look at that thing of him saying, he said there's verified people on both sides. That's not what he said. He said, I'm not talking about the KKK and white supremacists. They should be condemned.
It was so clear. He made it totally clear. And what he was saying was that there were very fine people on both sides of the arguments about tearing statues down.
Yes.
Like, he was saying, look, it's reasonable that there are some people who are like, no, this is our history, we want to keep it up. And then there's other people who are like, this represents slavery or something like that, we want to take it down. And then first off, it was clear when he said it that that's what he meant. And then they ask him a follow-up question. Are you saying the white supremacists are very fine people? He goes, no. How many times do I need to say that?
Yes.
No, I am not saying that any of the white supremacists. And, like, that's not enough.
And then there was a sneaky thing that they used to do. They would ask him, will you disavow white supremacy? Will you disavow white supremacy? Like, what are you talking? First of all, that's like saying to someone, like, will you anything, any crime that you would never do? Like, will you disavow murder? Like, of course I'll disavow murder. Oh, well, all of a sudden you're implicated in something where you have to disavow murder. Like, you're connected somehow or another to murder now. Dave Smith, under any circumstances, do you disavow murder? You're like, I'm not murdering anybody. What the fuck are you saying?
And after he had done it, like, maybe 100 times, no
Right.
exaggeration, they'd go, now you still haven't disavowed white supremacy.
Yeah, it
and
does-
he'd be like, no, I have.
Over and over again.
Now, but
yeah.
to your point, which I think is a really good one, and I think I love the analogy for people who are MMA fans. It really is like it's like someone coming into MMA in 2024 and being like, I'm a jiu-jitsu specialist. I've never trained wrestling or striking.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, that's not going to work anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I know that worked in 1993,
Yeah.
but like that's not going to work. They have not adapted to the new world that we're living in now. And you saw there was a lot of evidence of this. Like, these things that used to work now come with a heavy price. So one of the things that politicians used to do in general was that they would give the same stump speech everywhere they go. Message discipline is what
Right.
it's called, and you always stay on message. And this is the idea, is that you're never going to get your message out there unless you say the same thing over and over again to everyone. But now we have the internet, and you have these compilations of Kamala Harris saying she's from a middle-class family like 75 times in a row, and you just look like a psychopath. You're like, oh, what are you... So now there's like a cost to playing the game in the old way, but they don't
Right.
adjust.
Right.
And Trump, whether even intentionally or not, was always just kind of like, oh, well, I just speak off the cuff. So I don't do that. You know, like, I mean, he's got themes that he hits a lot, like all of us kind of do.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that. And he did. And Donald Trump, one of the brilliant things, and man, I mean, I can't believe I haven't just asked you this already about this, but one of the really brilliant things that Donald Trump did, which obviously, look, RFK did it, and Vivek Ramaswamy, I think both, like, they recognize, like, look, we're in a new landscape here. And there are these shows on the internet that have much bigger audiences than these traditional shows. Oh, and by the way, I get to go long, and I can really give an in-depth, you know, like point on every single topic. And dude, I mean, Trump coming on here and her refusing to. This is, I mean, dude, you kind of put Donald Trump in the White House. Like, this is
Settle down.
amazing.
Settle down. People are listening.
Everyone's thinking it.
Well, for sure, him getting to be himself and just have a conversation with someone who's not being hostile.
Yeah.
You know, and I did ask him questions that I wanted answers to, like this proof that he lost in 2020. He did not provide me with that. And I've said, and we talked about it in depth yesterday, that if I was accused of election denying, which election denial, it's like there's Holocaust deniers, number one, and then there's maybe
Climate.
a vaccine denier and election denier. Election denier is probably a little higher than vaccine denier. You could be a kook and a vaccine denier but still believe that Donald Trump lost the election. But election denier, you're cast out of the kingdom. There's a couple other ones that go underneath that, but those are the big ones. Those are the big ones. And you get put into a box like instantaneously. If I was put in that box, I would have responses to every question. I would say, well, in Georgia, there was blah, 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 blah ballots that were blah, blah, blah. This would have been, these people were dead. These people, they should have never been voting in the first place. They were not United States citizens. I would have all the information ready to fire. And he didn't. He was like, there's books, I tell you that. I have the suspicion that he's way busier than me, and I can barely pay attention to things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I agree to do things, and my wife tells me we're going to do something. What are we talking about? She goes, you said yes to it yesterday. I did. When? You were making coffee. I wasn't paying attention. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Where are we going? You know, but that's just normal life stuff, right? This guy is literally running for fucking president. He's got what? All these golf courses everywhere and businesses everywhere and Mar-a-Lago and fucking family. There's millions of things. So probably they told him the election was stolen. He told me, find the results, find it, let's get it overturned, these fucking criminals. I don't know how much he really looked into it. I don't know. I don't know how much he studied it because he
didn't really have an answer for you.
I would want you to regurgitate it fact by fact. And I think Vivek could do that. If you ask Vivek a question about that, if you ask J.D. Vance a question about that, I bet if they were accused, they would be able to rattle off all those numbers and statistics.
I think that Vivek probably wouldn't make the claim exactly in the same way that Donald Trump is.
I'm saying if he was accused.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If he
sure.
was accused.
Well, yeah. No, Vivek isn't going to say anything without having like a
100%.
detailed answer to it. And that's not Trump. That's not.
Nor is JD.
Yes. Listen, Trump is different than Vivek and JD. He's a different type of animal.
There was so much evidence.
Well, the thing is, one of the things that was really interesting, and that was one of the most interesting moments of your show with him, was that you weren't asking it the way CNN would ask it. You weren't badgering him and like you were, after having a very honest, good faith conversation for a while, you were asking in good faith, like, what's the evidence? And yeah, look, I think the truth is that his lawyers made a lot of outlandish claims, none of which they could prove in court. Essentially what he has in terms of the argument, I think is kind of what we have, what we just looked at. We're like, sure does look strange. Sure does seem weird to me that 80 million plus people voted for Joe Biden. And the regime was so working against him in every other way.
Right.
Like, Glenn Greenwald, who's, I think just one of the absolute, like, most brilliant people out there.
I agree.
His work is incredible.
I love that guy.
I love the way he put it. I thought it was perfect. Where he goes, he's like, I don't really have any evidence that they stole the election from him, but they clearly rigged the thing against him. And then just kind of goes through like all the censorship, the Hunter Biden story, the media. And so in that environment, it's very easy. The analogy that I use, I think I may have said this before to you, but it's almost like if there's a guy who's like cheating on his wife all the time, and then one day she's like, last Friday you didn't answer your phone when you were out. I know you were cheating on me. And she's wrong. He wasn't cheating that Friday.
Right.
Like, she's kind of right even though she's wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, she might get the detail wrong, but her overall suspicion is in fact correct.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of that with Trump supporters, where it's just like, listen, man, you framed him for treason for 3 years of his presidency. Then you shut down the economy, and that was totally, partially at least, to ruin his economy for his re-election year. Then you were totally supporting the riots that were destroying, like you were just causing chaos. Then you overhauled the way we do votes, and you killed his big October surprise story by censoring it off all the social media sites. And now you're telling me the most unimpressive senator in the history of America, Joe Biden, got 80 plus million votes. He got more votes than Obama in 2008. Really? Like, this just smell. But that is not something you can take to court.
Right. That's not something you can say definitively as a fact and defame people and slander people.
Right.
And that's where Giuliani's fucked, right? Giuliani got hit with a huge lawsuit. How much was it? Like 150
I don't
million?
remember. It was a lot. But also Rudy Giuliani is a lawyer, and he should know that, like, you kind of can't say that unless you got something to really present.
And the way you should say it is by presenting the evidence. You shouldn't even make claims. You should probably just present the evidence.
Well, they were saying, Sidney Powell, I think that's her name, right? And Giuliani.
$148 million damages verdict adds to Rudy Giuliani's over his legal lies about 2 Georgia election workers. So what did he say that these ladies did?
So this is a defamation suit?
It must be. What did he say that they did? Defamation case brought by 2 former Georgia election workers marks a new low point for the man once lauded as America's mayor, whose advocacy of Donald Trump's false election claims led to criminal charges and hefty legal bills. What did he say that they did? What did he say? What did he say? Let's find out what his statements were. See if you can find it.
Remember when Ron Paul destroyed Rudy Giuliani on the debate stage?
Here it says Giuliani
This is different, I think.
accuses him of participating in a wide-range conspiracy to thwart the will of Georgia's voters who had selected Democrat Joe Biden over Republican incumbent. He faces 13 charges, including violation of Georgia's anti-racketeering law, the federal version of which was one of his favorite tools as a prosecutor in the 1980s. That's crazy. Because he's the one who took out, like, the mob.
Yep.
Jesus Christ. So, but let's find out what he said, if we can. I'm interested.
Isn't it annoying that they make it so hard to find, like, the actual thing?
Yeah, lies he spread about them that upended their lives with racist threats. Well, what were the lies? What did he say? When it says upended their lives, click on that link. See what it says. Georgia election worker suing Rudy Giuliani tells jurors that his lies made her fear for her life. So what the fuck did he say? Repeated false claims about her and her mother, saying that they were engaged in changing votes. I personally cannot repair my reputation at the moment because your client is still lying on me and ruining my reputation further, she told Giuliani's lawyer. She sobbed. She testified that her life was turned upside down by the accusations, though they were quickly debunked by state officials. Her attorneys displayed a few of the graphic messages accusing her of treason and more that she received after Giuliani in December of 2020 falsely accused workers at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta of tampering with ballots. Yeah, you got to have real evidence if you want to say something like that.
And again, Rudy Giuliani is a lawyer. Like, he should know that, you know?
California's only reported 54% right now, so that's somewhere in the range of 9 million plus votes. But that's the biggest missing vote.
Oh, so far still?
Yeah.
How do they not count it all?
Only
up?
54%
Yeah, I don't know.
at
This
this
is
point.
updated too.
How are they? Why are they so slow? They suck at everything over there now.
85 for Nevada, 73 or something for Washington and Oregon. Oregon's at 62%, so they still have a lot to go up there. I don't know if that's
All right,
20
so we'll
million,
see what these numbers look like.
But
when
at the
they
end of
have
the
them all in.
day, so there might still be more millions. Yeah. So it might get close to the 80 million mark. It'd be interesting to see, because then that's a misleading chart. I didn't know that there were so many that hadn't turned in their votes yet. That doesn't surprise me about California. Get your shit together, you fucking dorks.
Yeah, they can't do anything.
They're charging 14% in state taxes, then another 1% if you live in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles. You get hit with another 1%. Dude, that's like agent and manager fees. You know?
Yeah.
You imagine, like, you make a good amount of money. Like, let's say you make $100,000 a year. You have to pay $140,000 to the government for what? For what? And then if you move to Tennessee, zero. Move to Texas, zero.
And they wonder why people are flooding out of their state by the hundreds of
And
thousands.
you can't even count the votes in time, you fucking knuckleheads. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, they can't do anything.
It's such a goofy state, just overburdened with regulations. You can't even have flavored vapes anymore.
Yeah, it's
Little
really...
Billy's hooked on the strawberry mist. You got to take it out of the store to protect my little Billy. It's the strawberry that gets him. You can't have flavored Zins.
Well, and isn't it so, like, the whole, like, war on tobacco, which I guess vapes aren't tobacco, but the whole, like, you know, like, crackdown on smoking and everything that kind of happened in my lifetime is... It's really, really wild when you take into account all the stuff that Bobby Kennedy talks about.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like, yeah, but we're like the most unhealthy country. And you took away, like, yeah, a lot more people used to smoke cigarettes, and cigarettes aren't good for you, sure, but we were a healthier country when people were smoking cigarettes.
We need regulation, my little Billy and his strawberry vape. Do you ever use Zins?
Occasionally.
No, these are Lucy's. These are espresso flavored. This is contraband in California.
Are these...
These are eights.
Wait, are these the Tucker Carlson ones?
No.
these
This
are-
is another company, Lucy's. These are breakers. They have a little thing in there. You break it. It gives you flavor. It tastes like coffee. Go ahead, break it.
All right.
Bite down. Chew on it. Oh, yeah, baby. Illegal in California. Right here, we're in
Yeah,
Texas.
this doesn't seem like it should be illegal.
In freedom.
Freedom in Texas.
No, if you want flavor, you have to have that and a stick of gum. If you live in California, you can get your cinnamon gum, and you can chew your cinnamon gum with your fucking no flavor Zin, and you could have a nice little experience, almost like you have a cinnamon Zin. But you're not allowed to have a cinnamon Zin because you're too much of a fucking baby. You can't control yourself.
Well, it's like, and
No
even
gambling
outside,
either, you fuck.
Dude, I mean, you know, I'm on the road all the time. Yeah, right. And you go throughout this whole country, and it's like, yeah, people don't smoke anymore. That was effective. I mean, they not like the way they used to. You know, there's not people smoking cigarettes like that.
No.
But every single town I go to in this entire country has an Arby's and a Burger King and a KFC. And like they have every single town, even when they have nothing else, they have every single type of fast food. And you look around and like everybody's obese. Everyone's unhealthy. I mean, when you rattle off, you know, when Bobby Kennedy gave that speech when he threw his support behind Donald Trump, you know, I was watching that with my wife and my mother-in-law. And they both like have tears in their eyes as he's just reading down the stats of how unhealthy we are as a country. It's just, you know, man, one thing, and I'm really, really glad that that Bobby ran for president this year, and I'm really glad he ended up throwing his support behind Trump, and hopefully he gets a really important position in there. But the one thing that I almost felt like you couldn't argue with him, that even if you don't blame the same culprits that he blames, which is what they love to say. It's like, how is everyone not talking about this? How is this not an issue that every single presidential candidate has to address?
It's killing people.
Yeah.
It's
and
killing
our kids.
People. It's killing kids, and it's making people way more vulnerable to a host of other diseases, including cancers. It's terrible for you. Cardiovascular, like the 77%, I think Bobby said, 73% of all American boys are not eligible for the military. So they are unfit to serve because they're either obese or they have a host of these metabolic conditions that have come about from poor diet.
Yeah.
And from poison, from eating poison. Essentially, you're slow dosing your body with poison and sugar all day long, and that's most people. And we don't do anything about that, but then we try to regulate vapes.
Yeah. Do you
Strawberry
know
vape,
do you know
Billy.
Nicole Shanahan?
Yes. I haven't met her in person, but I actually did a FaceTime with her, and I think Willie D from the Ghetto Boys.
Really? That's an odd pairing together. I think
awesome.
she's great. I had her on my podcast a couple times. And it's just...
Yes, 77% of young Americans between the age of 17 and 24 are not considered fit for military service. Unbelievable, dude.
Only 11's physical health.
11 mental health. And that's to set substance abuse, education, social and behavioral factors, criminal records. U.S. military is facing a recruitment crisis due to these challenges, as well as a lack of interest among young people. So it's only 11% is like physically so unhealthy that they can't do it. That's obesity, actually. So there's probably a bunch of other conditions other than obesity.
Right.
Mental health issues. I wonder, it says significant factors. I wonder what number that is. I bet drug and alcohol abuse is a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. It says 8% for drug and alcohol abuse. So I wonder how much the mental health is. I bet that's a big one. Doesn't say, does it? Let's find out. Because that seems like there's a lot of people out there with mental health conditions. Medical, physical health. Drug and alcohol abuse, 8%. Medical, physical health, 7%. What does it say about mental, though? Mental health and overweight conditions. Oh, there. 4% mental health, 7% medical, physical only, 8% drug abuse, 11% overweight. Wow.
Did she... Nicole...
Look at this, 44%, though. More than one reason or condition. 44, almost half. More than one of these problems that makes you ineligible. That's crazy.
I was... I can't remember what town I was in. But so Nicole Shanahan, who I think she's great. And it was really, really interesting. I had her on my podcast twice, just really, really smart lady who's really knows a lot about this stuff. So she sent me this like video that she posted. And so I'm in a hotel room and I was there with my buddy Rob Bernstein, who's a co-host of my podcast, Part of the Problem. Very, very funny comedian, very smart guy. And so I was texting with him. And we were like on our way to go to the show. So I was like, hey, meet in the lobby in 10 minutes. And then I got an Uber taking us to the comedy club. I can't remember where we were. And Nicole Shanahan sends me this video. It was like a video that she put out on Twitter. I didn't know what it was going to be. You know, she just sent me it and I just click on it and play it. And it was just about like what her family went through with their kids, you know, like illnesses and stuff. And it's like this, and it's the most touching video ever. And I'm literally sit down. It's so powerful that I sit down and I'm just watching this whole thing. And I started crying watching it. It's like I got kids with health issues really cuts close to the bone for me. But as I'm sitting there just like literally sobbing watching this video, it's so emotional. And then literally it just dawns on me in the middle of it that I'm supposed to meet my comedian friend in 1 minute in the lobby to go to this show. And I was just sitting here like, what am I doing? I'm sitting in my hotel room crying about these kids. But anyway, the point of it is that like, hey, look, I don't know enough about this stuff. You know, I know about stuff that I know about. I don't know enough about this. I really should educate myself more on it. But if your argument is that like, that Bobby and Nicole are blaming the wrong culprits. You know, it's not the vaccines and it's not the Wi-Fi and it's not like, okay, I don't know. But like, what is it then? And why are you not interested in this?
Right.
Why are they the only ones who are talking about this? You're telling me we lead the world in chronic illness, and that's not something that comes up in any presidential election ever,
Right.
other than when Bobby Kennedy runs
Right.
for president? That's insane.
You don't think the increase in the number of autism cases is an area we should discover? We should look into. We should investigate. You think that that's all been figured out? Like, why are you so convinced?
And explain. I'm sorry. I'm letting you know that I'm somewhat ignorant on this subject. So just like explain it to me like I'm really, really stupid. Talk slowly.
They can't do
okay,
it.
I can understand where if you're talking about very mild autism, okay, like what we used to call Asperger's. Which I guess they don't call it that anymore. Right. But if you're talking about mild autism and you want to convince me that that went undiagnosed in the past, I can totally believe that. There is no way that moderate or severe autism went It may have not been correctly diagnosed, but you did not notice that. Like,
but
I'm sorry.
There's enough of a rise in numbers that it should be a concern
there's no way,
for everyone.
I'm saying there's no possible way that there isn't an increase going on here. Because obviously, even in the 1940s or in the 1950s, if someone was nonverbal, they would have noticed that.
Yeah.
They would have noticed that this, you know what I mean? Like,
if there was a lot of kids like that in your school, you'd notice.
There's no way you would have called it something. Maybe you wouldn't have like understood it the way we understand it today. And thank God people do understand it better. And there's a lot more tools that are provided, and there's a lot more awareness about it, and special schools and things like that. But come on, like there's, so much of this is it's one of the things that exposes how full of shit our whole system is when you just see that there's no even desire to get to the bottom of this. It's like the Trump assassination attempts.
But not only that,
no desire.
There's no desire to get to the bottom of it, and it's about children.
Yeah.
Which are the most vulnerable people that we all should be protecting. But they're so entrenched in this ideology that you have to trust science. And if you're a vaccine denier, you're a bad person. Like, no one's a vaccine denier. What we're saying is there may be a correlation, and there may be something that, if investigated, it shows has been covered up. And there may be a situation where the vaccine companies have complete immunity to prosecution. They can never be held liable, which was the only way that they could still manufacture these things, because they said that they cannot be safe and effective.
Yes,
they cannot be safe for everybody. There's going to be side effects.
That's exactly right, dude.
And they can't be liable for those side effects, because then they would go under. This is what set this whole chain in motion, where when I was a kid, you got 3 vaccines. Now you have 72.
Right.
It's wild.
And it reminds me kind of you remember like when they were trying to push the COVID passports, the vaccine passports, and the logic would just fall apart on its face. Like, you're like, wait a minute, you're like, you're telling me the vaccine is 100% effective. You're saying if you take the vaccine, you can't get COVID or spread COVID. And then you're also telling me that the people who are vaccinated in this restaurant need to be protected from the unvaccinated entering this restaurant. That doesn't make sense.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm not a genius, but I can figure out the logic in that is flawed, okay?
Also,
and in the same sense though, it's like, so what is if you're arguing that all these vaccines are safe and Bobby Kennedy's a kook, then why do they need the liability protection?
Yes. Absolutely. There was also another thing that they did that didn't make any sense, because it went against the science. And they was saying that if you don't get vaccinated, it's going to cause variants. And that's not what they say.
Yeah.
What people who study viruses and vaccines say is you do not vaccinate during a pandemic with a non-sterilizing vaccine. So meaning if you give it to someone and they could still transmit and they could still catch the disease, you're going to cause these variants. And there is a scientific paper that I posted like early into the pandemic that said this, and people got so upset at me. I'm like, tell me what this says. What this said, there's virologists that would go on these podcasts that, they'd have to be the people that are willing to step outside the line and say these things. They're saying this is not what you ever do during a pandemic, because you're going to create variants. And that's exactly what happened. And doctors started blaming the variants on the unvaccinated. But if you question those doctors, explain to me how that works. There's no fucking answer. It's just a narrative that they have to say, vaccine good, anything else bad, ivermectin, you're crazy, killing people, death, blood on your hands. It was all a psyop, and it was super effective. And it was a way for them to make ungodly amounts of money. And that's what it was. And the quicker we accept that and realize that we're vulnerable to that kind of shit, if we still keep following along the same kind of lines that we're on today, as soon as we realize that, the better off we all are, all of us.
Yeah, and I think I got here in a kind of similar way to you, which is I think a story for like millions of Americans, is that I never even thought about this issue. I never dove into reading a lot about any vaccine until there was this COVID vaccine. And then I really dove into it and read a lot about it and found out that you guys were lying through your fucking teeth about the whole goddamn thing, and that the whole clinical trials were totally rigged and totally fake, and that you were able to get everybody in the the scientific institutions of our government to all repeat these lies, and then everybody in the corporate media and the political class to repeat these lies. And then when Bobby Kennedy came along and said, well, you know how that was all bullshit? There's a lot of bullshit with these other vaccines. I was like, I'm listening. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
It doesn't seem unreasonable at all. And the fact that they were trying to silence legitimate scientists, doctors, professors at major universities for stepping outside the lines. They were trying to remove them from Twitter. They were trying to silence them. They worked in conjunction with the original Twitter to do that. They silenced real experts. You know, and when that lady from Twitter had to testify in front of Congress, it was amazing. That was amazing. And watch those people grill her. Yeah. Like, are you a doctor? Like, why are you silencing doctors? Like,
it was
what
the
are you
same.
doing?
That was the same. The one you had on, right, with Tim Pool.
Yes.
So, and one of the interesting things about that was, that was a great, still probably one of my all-time favorite JRE episodes. But it was when they were arguing that like they don't have a bias. And then I think Tim was like, yeah, but you ban people for like dead naming or misgendering.
Right.
And she was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's hateful. And you're like, yeah, but that's a bias. Like that right there is a bias.
That's a bias.
And it's one thing when you're just talking about like whether we're calling somebody a boy or a girl, but then you realize like, oh, you have the exact same thing when it actually comes to like very important medical information about a product that Americans are being forced to take.
Right.
This is madness.
No matter what you say, they're being forced. They're being forced if they want to fly. They're getting forced if they want to work in a place that has more than 100 people. If the workplace mandates it. Forced if they want to go to a university. Forced.
And they were implementing in a totally unconstitutional way. They were going to, through OSHA, through workplace safety, like just the most blatantly unconstitutional proposal, that Joe Biden was going to make it the law of the land that every single business with 100 people or more had to have everybody vaccinated. And it was only because of Donald Trump's Supreme Court that got struck down. And that's something that people who are paying attention remember. And so like, okay, you can demonize Donald Trump all you want to, but how many millions of Americans were not fired from their job, did not lose their livelihood because they refused, or were not vaccine injured for a vaccine that they never needed to take? I mean, how many people fell into the category that like me and you and so many other people fell into, where we got the thing and beat it real quickly before we ever got vaccinated and then just didn't need it. Right. And then it just didn't make any sense. Even with the information we had about the vaccine back then, which we have a lot more now, but even back then, I mean, you looked CNN's doctor right in the eyes, and he goes, well, are you going to get the vaccine? You go, no, I just beat COVID. Why would I need to? And he had no answer for you. No. He had no reason why. There's no compelling reason why you should.
They wanted me to join the team.
That's it.
That's all it is. Yep. I mean, I had a very intelligent friend that I had a conversation with. You going to get vaccinated now? I go, why would I do that? It was a weird conversation. I go, I beat it in 3 days. Like, I wasn't even that sick, man. Like, I made a video 3 days later explaining, and I got in trouble because I took the wrong medication to get better. Are you guys out of your fucking mind? Like, if you were really worried about people's health and safety, when you say, hey, what's this 57-year-old guy doing getting over this so easy?
Right.
What's he doing different?
Oh,
what's he doing different?
And you go, oh, he's very serious about his health. Oh, he takes really good care of himself. By the way, you enjoyed me giving the business to Chris Cuomo over that. That was one of my favorite moments of this year.
He
that
fell
was a good
apart.
one.
He was trying to do CNN outside of CNN. Mm-hmm. You know, like when he said, I've never said that. And then they pull up the clip like immediately of him demonizing.
Shout out to Patrick Bet-David's crew. because they really had my back on that one.
Yes.
You know, it's not like I didn't send them that clip before
Right.
or anything,
Well,
but
that was an
they in
easy-
real time. In real time,
Yeah.
had that ready to go.
They had a
And
Jamie, too.
Yeah. They had. Everybody's got a Jamie now.
Not Jamie. There's only one Jamie.
There's
but-
only one. There's only one Jamie, but there's a lot of knockoffs.
Yeah, a lot of knockoffs. But the fact that you checked him in real time and he just had to sit there and eat it, it's
Yeah.
just they were puppets. They were puppets for the system. They were doing it because that was their job. That's how you get ahead in your career. You want to be the main guy at CNN. That's what you do. And
Right.
that's what they were doing. And now he's not doing it anymore. Good luck to him. I hope he does stay on an independent path and becomes an objective person. And he's made some strides towards that, I think. I think he's taken some fucking lumps, and I think you beat the fuck out of him in that debate. That debate was Mike Tyson's early fights. So fucking, you see that fucking white dude with the muffin top who just gets flatlined in 15 seconds? That's what that was.
I mean, look, man, and it's not really like a comment on me. It's not that I'm so amazing at debates. It's just like the argument here is so
You're pretty good
weak.
at debates. You're
Well,
pretty,
thank you.
pretty good at it.
I
You're pretty
appreciate
fucking
that.
good at it. But
I'm not bad at it.
but also
I'm just right about
the
this.
facts were on your side.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's my superpower isn't that I'm like the smartest guy or the best at debates. It's just that like I'm right in what I'm arguing, and that makes it much easier. You know, I got there was an organization that was pitching me on a debate, a 2-on-2 debate, which I don't really like doing 2-on-2 debates. I've done like I
Too
think
many people
one.
talking.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
One-on-one is the way to do it. But they pitched me this like months after that. I think it was, if I'm not wrong, I think the topic was about whether Joe Biden should drop out of the race or not. And they pitched me that it would be a 2-on-2 debate against two people. I don't remember who were saying he should stay in. And it was going to be me and Chris Cuomo against them. And I told them, I was like, no, I will not be on his side. And like, I don't, you know, I'm kind of over, you know,
Yeah.
we had our thing. I gave him a beating. I think he deserved it. But I'm just like, listen, man, I'll team up with like a left winger on something I agree with. I'll team up with a right winger on something I agree with. I'll team up with like a moderate on something I agree with. But no, not the corporate media guy who was the #1 show at CNN. Like, I'm not on their side. Even if I'm on their side on this issue, I'm against them. And I know that this has probably been a theme of like every single time I'm on this show over the last 10 years or whatever it's been. But I just... And maybe it's a problem myself. I hate them so much. And I really think they deserve it. And it's not just that they lie about everything. It's like they lie about everything, and then they have the nerve to morally judge us. Like, if you just watch even just the last few weeks of the Trump election, they're not in the business of reporting the news. They're totally just in the business of making you feel like you're a bad person if you don't fall in line with the regime.
Right.
And, you know, like, it's like all of us know, right? Everybody knows this. America has this giant war machine, right? Like, we're just always at war. We're the most war-hungry country in the world. Even if we're taking a little bit of a break from a war, we'll fight 2 more proxy wars while we do that. America looks back at the 90s, Bill Clinton, as the time of peace and prosperity. We call it peace because we only fought a war in like Serbia and had a blockade around Iraq and were like bombing the crap out of Iraq with a few other military interventions in there too. You know, the UN estimated that Bill Clinton's sanction and bombing regime of Iraq, okay, everyone just thinks of George H.W. Bush's war and W's war, but Bill Clinton was bombing Iraq and you had a full blockade around the country. The UN estimated that 500,000 children died of starvation or malnutrition due to the blockade. Now, I've heard people argue, by the way, that number is exaggerated. Maybe it wasn't 500,000. Maybe it was only 100,000. So that's the time that we consider peace. When we were just starving 100,000 children to death in Iraq. And you, everybody in the corporate media, are in the business, every single one of those wars, you've sold them. Everyone, my entire life, the media has sold those wars. And you're going to morally look down on me? You're going to judge me? Motherfucker, you're in the business of baby murder. Get the fuck out of here. You're looking down, judging an American because maybe I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, or maybe I dare to question the results of the last election. Fuck you, dude. And man, and it was a challenge debating him because they were playing the clips. You know, even before they played that clip that sunned him because he had said he didn't say that, and then he clearly did. But they were just playing the clips of the way they were talking to people during COVID and the pandemic of the unvaccinated, and it's you, Mr. Vaccine Skeptic. You're the reason why this. And man, it was getting me angry. Like I was just like, all right, I gotta control this here because this is too like.
But how sweet is it that he's on ivermectin now?
I mean, it's
how
like,
sweet is that, though? That is the nuttiest part of it all.
Could you just set someone up for a better?
That, he wants to say long COVID. Like, hey, buddy, let me tell you something. If you got a novel medication injected into your body more than once, you probably had to do it twice. You probably at least had to get one booster. And you have some problem, and you're saying this long-term problem is COVID, long COVID. Are you sure? Are you sure? Or maybe that medicine that they injected into your body, you got vaccine injured.
Yeah.
You don't want to say that, though, because you still want some sort of a job in corporate media, so you have to toe the line. You should be very concerned that this novel, before, never mass injected into people. Who knows how many different people are going to have different results from some medication, some terrible fucking weird way their biology interacts with this medication is going to cause a horrible side effect. And now you're on ivermectin to treat that. That's rich.
And the way he tried to spin it, that
it's for long
he
COVID.
wasn't, but he tried to say, because I mean he really should have just thrown in the white towel. He would have done much better for himself
Saying
in that
I was
debate.
wrong.
If you go, listen, I was at CNN. And I kind of just took for granted that they have the best experts. And so I trusted their experts. And now I realize they were. If he had said that, that would have been very hard. I still would have been harsh on him, but it would have been a different conversation and a different dynamic. What he did was he refused to admit that. And then, and this is really what got me, is that then he started kind of like attacking my motives. Like he was like, oh yeah, no. He goes, I know that this is probably good for your podcast numbers and stuff, but blah, like as if I don't really believe what I'm saying.
Well, because
I'm just doing this to make money.
They function.
Right.
That's why they're accusing you of functioning that way. They're accusing you of doing things just because they're going to be outrageous and get a lot of views.
Which is, but like me, I don't do that.
I don't do that.
Yeah,
I don't do that.
No, I know you don't.
I know you don't.
Podcast
in the world, and I don't do anything based on how many views I think it's going to get. That's a fact.
Yeah, and you don't like. There is nothing I say that I don't believe. I might be wrong about some stuff, but everything I say, I believe. I'm not like ever saying anything because just like, oh, this will, like bring in bigger numbers or something like that.
They think that way. That's why he's accusing you of that.
Yeah,
because like that's a motivation for people that are in that industry. If you're in the fucking industry of being a mouthpiece for network news, like there's a very narrow window of behavior that you have to operate under. You have to stay inside these lines and whatever, if you're on Fox or if you're on NBC or whatever it is, MSNBC, anyone, you have a narrative. They have a narrative in the office. There's a culture. There's 100%. A way people think about that, and this is your job. So you're going to do the things that you think are going to get you more ratings. You're going to do the stories that are going to get people more outraged. That's how you're thinking. It's the wrong way to think when you're on the internet. And
they also have there's a real incentive to never consider like what I said about them being in the baby murder business, because that's that's pretty rough to think of yourself as that. And I remember this one time I watched a documentary on abortion, and it was like a very pro-choice.
How much free time do you have?
This was before I had kids. This was before I had kids. I had so much free time before I had kids.
If I'm going to unwind in front of the TV, that's the last thing I'm going to watch.
I'm a weird guy, Joe. But anyway, that's what I do.
I might though.
But I forget where it was. It might have been on Netflix
or something.
Want
to know what was going on.
Well, I was kind of interested in the subject, and was before I had kids. But I remember I was watching. It had a very pro-choice bent, and there was this abortionist, this abortion doctor, this lady, and she was like, listen, I've been an abortion doctor for 30 years, and let me just tell you something. There is no moral issue with having an abortion. It's a thing in a petri dish. It's not a human being. And I remember just watching it and being like, well, yeah, but like you better feel that way.
Right.
Because if you even start to entertain the possibility that, what does that make you?
Right.
So there's this very powerful social incentive for them to like dig their heels in and not admit that like, oh, the United States of America, the greatest country in the history of the world with more freedom and prosperity and cultivated the greatest economy and the greatest, music and literature and just everything that is this superpower. Oh, we presided over the bankruptcy, destruction, and like the devolving into nothing more than a like military industrial complex, big bank, big pharmaceutical, most corrupt nation on earth. And we didn't cover that. We watched all of that happen, and not only did we not cover it, we demonized anybody who covered it. And we were at every, you know, like that's very difficult to ever confront. And it's always just so much easier for human beings to just go, nope, the problem is misinformation and Russia and racism.
They were saying that the number one thing for women was abortion. That was the narrative that was being expressed over and over again. It was the number one issue for them, the number one concern.
What was the only political winner they had?
Did you see what Kurt Metzger tweeted?
No. No, but I want to.
Hold on, give me a second. He's the man. Kurt is the fucking best when things are flying and everything gets crazy. I'm going to send this to you, Jamie. Oh, my God. He's so funny.
He is one of the funniest human beings on the planet,
He's so
for
funny.
sure.
He's a mess in the green room. He's just like,
oh, I know.
Like, he got me down rabbit hole after rabbit. You didn't hear about this? And he's like, more conspiracies. I'm like, Kurt, I'm trying to like enjoy this experience of being at the comedy club and Donald Trump's about the way you're hitting me with conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy.
Yeah,
I'm like,
listen, you get caught on the side of the bar at Mitzi's with Kurt Metzger, you might be in for a night.
And he's looming and he's big. He's a big giant guy. Christina Applegate, right? Why? Give me your reasons why. My child is sobbing because her rights as a woman may be taken away. Why? And if you disagree, please unfollow me. Kurt says, good news. If she got all her COVID shots, she's probably sterile now anyway. Also, what the fuck is a woman? Also, could you imagine a child? Imagine a child, and your child is sobbing because their right to kill a baby inside of them might be taken away. I don't believe that's true.
It's very hard.
I don't believe that's true unless you've distorted what we're talking about to that child and said that someone's going to tell that child what they can and can't do with their body, like in some sort of a weird dystopian way. Like, what did you say to that kid? Do you explain what an abortion is? Do you explain how they came about? They were in your body, and then they came out. Now they're a little tiny person that's like super vulnerable, and you want to protect their right to kill a little tiny person inside of them. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to do it, and I'm not a woman. I should not have the choice of what a woman can and can't do with her body. I would not want a man, if I was a woman, to tell me what the fuck I can do with my body. And I think if somehow, and I think it's all connected to religion, and if somehow or another someone decided, and this would be a very minor comparison and not nearly as consequential, but if someone decided that men could no longer get vasectomies, if men could no longer get vasectomies because of religious reasons, because of some Sharia law or whatever the fuck it is, you cannot do that. Men would be outraged. If women were forcing it on men, we have low population, you cannot get vasectomies. Like, what? We'd be like, what the fuck is going on? And I want to go to Oklahoma to get a vasectomy because it's legal there. And then they track you. Were you in Oklahoma to get a vasectomy? Like, what? What the fuck? Men would be outraged. That's happening with abortion. There's talk of doing that with abortion, where in states where it's illegal, women are not going to be allowed to travel in the United States of America, where you're supposed to have freedom, to go to a place where you're going to have a legal medical procedure. It's legal in that place, whether you agree with it or not. If you're going to believe in states' rights and you don't think that this is a giant prison where you have to show your ID when you go into Arizona, you should be able to drive around, right? That's the whole idea of one country. You can go wherever the fuck you want to go. It's not your business. There's other things to worry about. Worry about these fucking gangs that are taking over apartment buildings. Worry about the border. Worry about South Central Los Angeles. Worry about the South Side of Chicago and fucking gang violence that kills more people than half the wars we have going on right now. Worry about important shit. Don't worry about what a guy wants to do to get a vasectomy, or what, way worse, a woman wants to do if she's trying to get an abortion. Well, it's not your fucking business.
I think that if the argument is that abortion is killing a baby, which, like, there is an argument to, then I can understand the argument being, hey, that shouldn't be allowed. Now, obviously, I do think there are situations where it's pretty indefensible to force a woman to carry a baby to term.
Yes.
You know, but
you could risk her life. There's a lot of rape, incest.
Also major health issues.
Yes.
I mean, there are these situations where you find out that there is some, you know, congenital disease where this kid is not going to make it to 3 years old. And I would never dream of like forcing, you know what I mean, that decision on parents rather than allowing them to make it. There is also the vast majority of abortions are not that, you know, and the vast majority of abortions are essentially people just don't want to have kids right now. And that's that's much tougher to defend than those cases. But I will say that one of the things that always like I find striking to me is that because I'm like a radical libertarian, and it's very interesting to me that like progressive Democrats all of a sudden become radical libertarians, but only on one issue. And they make literally exactly, I'm not even saying the libertarian position is to be pro-choice. There's libertarians who are pro-life and libertarians who are pro-choice. But the argument they make is a libertarian one. They're like, listen, I own my body. It's my body. It's my choice. The government shouldn't be involved in healthcare decisions. We believe in freedom. This is a basic fundamental right. It's a very libertarian argument. Yes. And it's just interesting that you only apply that to this one area. Mm-hmm. There's not any other area where any progressive Democrat would ever go, you know, if we're talking about Obamacare, or we're talking about regulation, or we're talking about taxes, they would never go, hey, listen, this is my money. This is my body. This is my choice. The government shouldn't be involved in that. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And like there is something that's very bizarre about that, where it's kind of like maybe with immigration, they kind of try to use that an argument to like, oh, you shouldn't stop a person, freedom of movement type thing. They don't really do that anymore because it's been such a disaster. Right. But it's just very strange to me that it's like, oh, what, you all become radical libertarians like only when it comes to this thing, which is kind of murdering a baby.
But then there's the other side that says we're going to leave it up to the states. Okay. Well, if you get rid of Roe v. Wade and you leave it up to the states, if someone wants to go to another state where it is legal and you want to stop them from doing that or prosecute them when they come back to your state.
That seems to be a problem.
That's a problem. Because then it's like.
You can't prosecute me for gambling in Vegas.
Right.
Because
Do you
I come
own that
back.
person's body? What if that person decides to get an apartment in Oklahoma?
Right.
And now they kind of live there sometimes. What are you going to do?
It seems.
Is it where their driver's license is? Like, what is that?
It also just seems. I don't even know what the word. It seems like incoherent or unsustainable to say that if you're not breaking a law in the area where you are, that you could then be held responsible for that when you come back to it. Because again, like it's, you know, you go to a state where recreational marijuana is legal or where gambling's legal or whatever. You know, the idea that it's like if there's like the speed limit was 80 miles per hour in the town over, and then I come back and I get a speeding ticket for driving too fast over there, where you're allowed to do that. So that seems unworkable.
It's a great. That's a great analogy. Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's men too. It's men controlling women's bodies. That's the thing of it that freaks people out, and it's a step in the wrong direction. If you got rid of Roe v. Wade, and that's what you did, so now people have to go to a place where it's legal. If you're stuck in a state and you don't have the resources, but you are pregnant and you want to make a decision for your own body, that's not up to men to decide. If you really believe in states' rights and you really believe the United States is one cohesive community, you should be able to travel to do whatever the fuck you want. You want to get your dick tattooed? You want whatever you want to get. You want to get forehead implants so you look like a unicorn? Whatever the fuck you want to do. If you want to travel to go do that, including if you want to do something that's legal, it's a medical procedure that maybe that I frown upon. But if they decided in that state that it's legal, you should be able to do it there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reasonable compromise for right now is Roe v. Wade was struck down. It's a states' rights issue. But yes, I agree with you. The tracking of what you do in another state where it is legal in that state, that first of all, just seems unworkable to me. I don't see how that's possibly going to happen. And then I do feel like that's going to have to go back to the Supreme Court anyway, because it's such a precedent that you could be prosecuted for doing something that was legal in the area that you did it.
It's creepy. It's creepy. And it's an infringement on rights. I don't like it. Even if I don't like even if I wasn't a pro-choice person, if I didn't like the idea of abortion, I like less the idea of the government telling you what the fuck you can do and whether or not they can discover what you did in some other state. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. And that's what I think a lot of women are fearful of. And a lot of that, I don't know how much of a push there is to make something like that happen. We tried to find that about Texas the other day. There was one case, but we just kept talking. What was that one case, Jamie? There was something in Texas where someone maybe traveled to get an abortion, because in Texas it's 6 weeks, which is kind of crazy. Like, you don't have any time. You barely have enough time to realize you're pregnant for a lot of women.
You're probably not even going to test positive on a home pregnancy test, I think, for like 28 days or something like that. So you got 2 weeks, essentially.
2 weeks. Yeah.
After that.
To find out, make a decision, do what you got to do, and then you have to make sure you get in under the wire or you can get prosecuted. Like 7 weeks you're in jail.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Look, it's very, I don't know, it's tough. When you're drawing a line, it's very tough. It's very tough to find a line other than conception that's not arbitrary.
Right. Bill Burr had the best bit. His bit about it was fantastic.
Oh,
He
yeah,
goes,
yeah,
I believe in one woman's right to choose, but I think you're killing a baby.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, Jesus Christ. He's dead on.
Yeah.
It's dead on.
Yeah, Louis C.K. had a great one, too. I can't remember. That was an old Louis bit. He had a great abortion bit, too.
It's a thing that I always say, that if men can get pregnant, abortion would be an app on your phone. You'd be able to get a fucking abortion at the gas station. You'd be like, fill it up and take this out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, fuck that girl. I'm not carrying her baby.
But
I think this is the case, and it's a little confusing.
Okay. A Texas woman who was jailed and charged with murder after self-managing an abortion, what does that mean, can move forward with her lawsuit against the local sheriff and prosecutors over the case that drew national outrage before the charges were quickly dropped. A federal judge ruled on Wednesday. So U.S. District Judge Drew B. Tipton denied a motion by prosecutors and the sheriff to dismiss the lawsuit during a hearing in the border city of McAllen. Lizelle Gonzalez, who spent 2 nights in jail on the murder charges, is seeking $1 million in damages in the lawsuit, did not attend the hearing. Texas is one of the nation's most restrictive abortion bans and outlaws the procedure with limited exceptions. Under Texas law, women seeking an abortion are exempt from criminal charges, however. So why did they charge her? What did she do?
What is self-managing
what does
an
that
abortion?
mean? What does that mean? Oh, she took a drug. So Gonzalez was indicted in 2022 after she took the drug misoprostol while 19 weeks pregnant. She was treated at a Texas hospital where doctors later performed a cesarean section to deliver a stillborn child after they detected no fetal heartbeat. This is a little different.
19 weeks is pretty late, too.
Yeah, this is different. The charges were dropped just days after the woman's arrest. Okay, this is different. This is not someone going to another state. So I think that is probably J.D. Vance said he hadn't heard of that before, and he certainly wouldn't want to put those kind of restrictions on people ever. But when you leave it up to the states, if you're stuck in one of those states, that's where women get really freaked out that Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Yeah, well, look, it's not, none of these things are perfect compromises. And so even, one of the things that's interesting is, like, for so long, conservatives wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade, and it always seemed like a pipe dream, like it was never going to actually happen. But then when you do overturn Roe v. Wade, you do realize that it's like, nobody's really happy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's like the blue states are still going to have, like, unrestrictive, rules about it. So the the right-wing people aren't happy, and then the red states are going to be more restrictive, so the left-wingers aren't happy about it. It is, it's one of those issues that is enormously complex, and it's very difficult. I'm not sure there is, like, a legal solution to it. I think it's a much more of a cultural issue. It's like, if you were living in a society where, say, it was more similar to my grandfather's society, where it was very normal that you married your high school sweetheart. It was very normal that people waited till marriage to have sex, and it was very typical that you got married at 19 or 20.
Said.
Well, look, I'm not saying they did, but I just mean it was much more typical to get married at 19 and be married for 60 years or whatever. It's much easier to have rules about abortion in that society.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you're in, like, a hookup culture world where most people are, people are getting married at, like, 35 if they get married at all, and they're spending from, like, 17 to 35 being with many different partners.
Using apps.
Yeah. You're just going to come in and just write a law on top of that. It's just a very difficult situation. But, to your initial point, it's like the Dems were running on that because that was really the only political winner that they had. That was the only issue that people actually really cared about, and they were on the Democrat side about it. And that's why they had to run on that. That's why Kamala Harris, which was one of the craziest things of this whole campaign, one of the most amazing things, is that they actually tried to just run on nothing.
One of my favorites was that Tim Walz tried to claim that his wife got pregnant through in vitro fertilization, and she said that's not true. So he lied about that.
What a weird guy he was.
His wife had to come out and say he was lying.
Yeah. Well, so something, okay.
That guy lied about everything. He lied about being a head coach. He was an assistant coach. He lied about his military rank. Lied about whether or not he served in a war. Lied about whether or not he was in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
He fucking lies about everything.
Well, see, what happened is, right, so Obama, who was obviously a very, very smart guy, and incredibly talented politician, at least while he was running for president, he was. I think he's lost a step, but so Obama still was a bit of a narcissist, and he wanted to pick Joe Biden as his VP. He didn't want someone who was going to outshine him, and so he picked Joe Biden, who, even before he went senile, was never particularly bright. So he picked Joe Biden as his VP, and then Joe Biden. Well, he wanted some diversity points, and he also wanted someone to not outshine him because now he was becoming senile and he was never that bright to begin with. So he picks Kamala Harris to be his VP. And then Kamala Harris needs to pick someone who won't outshine her. You know what I mean? So it's like the idiocracy just like spun out of control real quick, where all of a sudden you get to like the third VP in a row and you're like, yo, really? This is who you picked? Like,
he's a knucklehead.
You know what's crazy is that this was in many ways this presidential election was just so wild and so different from anything I've ever seen in my lifetime. I'm 41, and this was different than any other presidential election of my lifetime for sure. And I think substantially before
anybody's
that.
Lifetime.
Yeah, I think before that too. But then there were these things that were also just like very conventional explanations for why you look at this Trump blowout. And it's almost like as you look back at it, it's like, yeah, what you guys thought you could get away with it? It's just very basic things that like Donald Trump picked a VP who, whether you like him or not, is a pretty impressive guy.
Very impressive.
Pretty impressive guy. There's a guy who was raised by a single parent who was a drug addict and ended up serving the country, going to an Ivy League school, becoming a venture capitalist, becoming a senator, and can sit and have a conversation with you for 3 hours and be very intelligent and expressive.
And have fun. He had fun.
However you feel about him, objectively an impressive person.
Yes.
He picked a VP that could help him.
Right.
He could do things that Trump can't do.
Right.
Like he could go on a show and really make the case pretty well in a hostile environment. He's got a very high verbal IQ, clearly. He's a very intelligent guy. She picked a VP who can't do anything to help her, who's like the weirdest human being you've ever seen. Like what was the strategy here, guys? And they really just banked on being not Trump. They go, all of the things that she ran on 4 years ago, she walked away from every position and didn't have an answer for any of them. Didn't have an answer for why. Like, it's totally fine to change your mind on something, and it's totally,
you should have a reason.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very easy. We've all changed our minds on a lot of things. And if you were like, "Hey, dude, you used to believe this, but you believe this now," you'd be like, "Well, let me tell you something.
Yeah,
I read this guy, and he just made such a good argument about it, and then he had all this data that I hadn't really seen before." That's fine, but she never had an answer for any of them. She went, "My values haven't changed." What? Well, okay. So, but again, what's the answer then? Like, you were for Medicare for all, now you're not. You were for open borders, now you're not. You were for whatever, a bunch of other stuff, trans surgeries for prisoners or whatever. Now you're not. What happened? She had no answer for that. She's also the sitting VP, and they go, "Oh, so are you running on the track record of the last 4 years?" Like, no. I'm also not going to run on that. Well, why not? Because I'm not Joe Biden. Like, it's like, what? What? That's what you're running on? That's it? Yeah. It's just like, it was so unbelievable.
So many people were behind her, which is even wilder. It's wild that so many people were like, yeah, this is what we got. So let's just fucking gaslight the shit out of half the country and run with it.
And also,
let's see how far we can take. I gotta piss. Let's come back. We'll talk about this. I've been holding.
Sure.
I did the sauna earlier. Sorry.
No.
We did an hour. Yeah. He's an old dude, man. Old dudes with bad posture are different than old dudes with regular posture.
That's a very good point.
Once they get to like this.
Yeah, that's it.
It's
Yeah.
not a lot. It's hard to keep your head up.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? After a while, gravity just wins. Yeah. But Trump keeps on trucking. He's the only guy that went 4 years in the White House and didn't get older.
Something
He
really,
looks
something really interesting
pretty
about
the same. Pretty the same 4 years later, where everybody else looks like they've been near a nuclear blast.
You know what?
Radiation poisoning.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. I've always thought there was something about like, because just from doing stand up, if you think about like if you really try to remember back to like your first like few months in stand up comedy, and you remember like how daunting getting up in front of people was.
Oh yeah,
it's like a thing, and that's the first step to being a stand up comedian. Isn't like getting great material or even being it's like, hey, get comfortable with going up in front of a group of people and speaking into a microphone to them. Get comfortable with not getting a laugh when you wanted to get one. Get comfortable with that. And there is something where like in 2016, and people forget about this human element of it, right? Like Jeb Bush, okay, he's the son of a president, he's the brother of a president, and he was the governor of Florida. It's not like he was a rookie. But when he's on that debate stage, he is stepping onto the biggest stage of his life. He's never been in front of a crowd like that before. Donald Trump, it's Tuesday.
Right.
It's like, this is what I do. Donald Trump's like cracking his neck and going out there like, oh, are all the spotlights and cameras on me? That's about right. Okay, like it's just like and he was so comfortable. That was a huge factor in why he was able to just nuke everybody. Because it's like, this is what I do. I'm the center of attention. Yeah. These guys have never been there before. Not like that.
He was funny when he was talking about the one-liner that he cracked about Rosie O'Donnell. He goes, "Thank God I had that one because she was coming after me. She was coming after me. I had that one. I got her with that one."
Well, he won her over.
He did. Look at her. Speaking for him. Apparently she crushed it and
she
made
did.
fun of Mark Cuban.
Yeah, she did. She did. It was great. Yeah, I watched it. She's Can
we watch it? I haven't seen it.
She's very sharp. Megyn Kelly's very impressive.
She was the original Fox Fembot. She was the original like super hot woman on Fox who was so much smarter than you, and you're like
smarter and
Ice Queen.
They're all wearing something very inappropriate.
Oh, yeah, I said vagina curtains. I used to have a bit about it. Which like not even a good curtain. Like the kind that grandma has over the kitchen sink that flutters when the breeze goes by. Like, Jesus Christ, you're inches away from vagina that's covered by the thinnest piece of cloth. It's a wild way to dress.
It's a weird culture over there at
It's
Fox.
amazing. Let's hear it.
4 years ago, we had Mark Cuban on the program. May have seen he was in the news this week. And he started going on about how bad America's race history was and how ashamed he was of America, and that's why he was at all these protests, and he felt it was really important to stand up and speak out about human rights violations. And then it got awkward when I asked him about all the money he was taking from China. And then he dropped a bunch of F-bombs, and I thought, I really enjoy this feeling of proving Mark Cuban wrong. And so here I am at a Trump rally, a strong, intelligent woman to prove Mark Cuban wrong again.
Damn.
Yeah.
That had a sting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's a beast.
Yeah. That one had a sting.
Yeah. It was very it's funny too because she's not like been in politics, but that was very like politically savvy. That was like a really smart way to go at it.
Well, she was very demonized as well. Remember when she went over to do that NBC show? That was crazy. Like, they took her from Fox, they gave her a shit ton of money, and then they just didn't like her.
And it was over the lamest thing. I forget even the comment.
Blackface.
Something about blackface Halloween costumes
or
something.
Can you pretend to be a person that you admire that's like if you want to be Diana Ross? She was like, I don't think, what's wrong with that?
Right.
It's not a bad question. There's one thing if you are mocking African-American people, if you have like fucking Al Jolson blackface on, but what if you want to be Mr. T? And you're a 10-year-old kid, and Mr. T's his hero. Do you really think that kid's racist? He puts a bunch of gold chains on and brown makeup on his face? Like, what are we calling blackface? Like, what does that mean, really? Blackface in terms of, like, Al Jolson type stuff, like, they literally used to use white guys pretending to be black guys in movies so they didn't have to have black stars.
And they would be like overtly dumb, and like, it was like
yeah.
It was very insulting. It was clearly like, we think lesser of these people. But that's not necessarily the case if you just have the color black. Whatever.
If you
it's
want
just,
to be
it's
Mike
an interesting
Tyson for Halloween.
Yeah, it's like
you can't.
But
you can do everything but the skin color, which is just bizarre.
Well, that's one of the other things that I do think has been very interesting over the last couple years, I guess, and it's really on display with the Trump re-election thing, is that the culture has moved.
Did you ever see when I talked to Robert Downey Jr. about Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
I go, do you think, could you do it today? He goes, oh, you could do it.
yeah, that was great. That was such a great response.
He's great, man.
That is technically true. You could do it.
I thought his conversation, the Avengers thing with Kama was goofy, but I love Robert Downey.
Yeah. That was a real interesting one.
I'd like to get him to eat meat. Every time I look at him, I'm very concerned.
Oh, is he? That's right. He doesn't
eat.
Yeah.
California vegan.
Well, I do think there's some stuff that we look back at now at like 2017, 2018, like the wokeism of that era does seem to be like, yeah, things aren't quite as crazy as they were then, or at least there was a little bit of like fatigue of it. You kind of can't get away with it anymore.
Isn't that like the pendulum though? Doesn't it like swing?
I guess
one way or the other way, and ultimately it moves into it's moving towards a better direction for society. And it's just a massive overcorrection. And then you have hustlers and grifters who get involved in it and amplify the movement, right? And now there's like the Black Lives Matter girls who bought all the real estate. There was also some accusation that they bought the house for substantially more than a person paid for just recently before that, and they have a connection to that person. Like there's some like other shenanigans.
Yeah,
with that.
It's the communists who are always like, yeah, but I also want to be a millionaire.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful when the grift gets exposed.
So I thought in the election this year, there were like kind of and woke culture in general. So maybe broader than the election, but there were kind of like three major factors that I think were really interesting. One was that I think the like, for lack of a better term, like the kind of anti-woke or non-woke people kind of won out in the marketplace. There's examples of like
the Tom Brady roast.
Well, I think you're
example.
yes. I think you're an example of that. The Tom Brady roast was an example of that. Shane Gillis's career was an example of that. You know, Tim Dillon's career was an example of that. It's just at a certain point, it's not even that Netflix changed their mind and they're willing to have these guys on because they had like some ideological transformation. It's just like, I don't know, dude. They're so big. They have so many fans. This is going to get a ton of views on it. And a mix of that, and also kind of for the first time, there was like a cost imposed with the Bud Light stuff and the Target stuff. There were these like kind of very effective boycotts where it's like, oh, there's going to be a cost imposed on you if you do that. The second factor with the Trump stuff and why they weren't able to get the shock troops out, and when I say the shock troops, I just mean the left-wing 20-year-old useful idiots who will come out and protest, yes, there's a fascist movement here, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that happened, and this is part of why, you know, this is a non-controversial explanation for 2020 versus 2024, is that in the year 2020, Joe Biden's central pitch to America was a return to normalcy.
Yeah.
And that was a very attractive pitch, I think, to a lot of people, especially if you can put yourself in November of 2020.
Sure.
You know, you've gone through the craziest year ever. And there's lockdowns, there's riots, the whole economy is a mess. Everybody is freaking out. Yes, all this stuff. It's just constantly. And you're constantly going like, oh my God, Trump is crazy. And then the reaction to him is crazy. And then Joe Biden could just be like, listen, you know me.
Yeah.
I've been in the Senate for 700 years.
Yeah.
Let's go back to regular America.
The adults are in the room.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, okay, I'm not campaigning. That's true. I'm in my house the whole time. But there's a pandemic. That's kind of the responsible thing to do. You know, Donald Trump's doing a super spreader event right now. That was still the narrative at the time, even though none of it was real.
Someone die from COVID that went to one of his events?
Yeah, I think maybe. I vaguely remember this.
Was it Ben Carson?
Ben Carson... He got COVID? I don't remember.
Who died from COVID that went to one of his early events?
Ben Carson dead? I don't think. I don't remember.
No, I don't think it's
somebody.
Ben Carson.
I think somebody might have. I vaguely
there
remember
was
this story.
Some other guy who was a supporter of Trump who wound up getting COVID and dying.
Which, like, whatever. Who even knows whether he got it there?
Let's find out
whatever.
what that was. Well, he probably did. I think it was
Maybe,
like,
yeah, that's quite
legitimately.
possibly.
I think it was a super spreader event.
But yes, well, it might have been. I don't know these outdoor events. I don't know if they really were or not.
Bro, they're all in tight proximity to each other, just like the flu.
Herman Cain.
Herman Cain.
Herman Cain. That's
who it
right.
was.
That's
who
right.
it was.
Yes.
That's who it was.
Okay. Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah.
So okay.
Ben Carson's still alive. Sorry,
Yes.
Ben.
So, Ben, you're doing
He's
great.
a brilliant man too. Another guy who's like very dismissed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bit of an odd duck, but he's a genius for sure.
You got the painting with Jesus behind him with his hands on his shoulders, like, "Hey, bro."
Yes, there's some weird stuff going on there, but he is an interesting guy.
Brilliant guy.
Very, very brilliant. But so anyway, this pitch of like the return to normalcy in 2020 is.
Attractive.
It's attractive, and it also, look, it fed into the thesis essentially of the entire corporate media was like, the problem is Trump.
Right.
The problem is Trump. Everything was the United States of America. Then this Trump guy came in and ruined everything, you know? Whereas the reality was always much deeper than that. That like, no, there were these huge problems, and that's why a Trump-like figure was so attractive to people.
Yeah.
But then what happened is Joe Biden came in, and nothing went back to normal. It got even crazier than it was under Donald Trump. So now people were looking back at the first 3 years of Donald Trump like, that seems pretty normal compared to what we've been going through in the Biden administration. So this sucked a lot of the energy out. And also, you didn't have the mystery of Trump. He's going to be Adolf Hitler in there. No, he's not. He's been in for 4 years. You know, in 2016, they were like, you can't trust him with the nuclear codes. And there was a little bit of a plausible claim to that. Like, I don't know, he would be the first president ever with no political or military experience. And he does seem like a little bit of a wild man, but you can't really sell that anymore after he's been president. So that kind of took away from the energy. And another thing, and I don't know, I'm not saying I'm the only one making this point. I haven't heard anyone else making this point. And I think this is a huge part of it, okay? Like, a huge part of the reason why you didn't see tens of thousands of young people out protesting Trump at Madison Square Garden, you only had like 100 people there, is because those young left-wingers who were reliable shock troops for the regime over the last decade, they've been protesting a genocide for the last year.
Right.
They've spent a full year protesting what they consider, and at least the International Court of Justice plausibly considers, a genocide. And it's very hard to get someone who's been protesting babies being slaughtered to turn around and pretend that something else is way more of an outrage, and especially to then go protest on behalf of the ones who are doing the genocide that you've been protesting against for the last year.
At least funding it.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, man. Yes, Israel, forget invading Lebanon or going to war with Iran. Israel can't conduct the war in Gaza without the U.S. It's our weapons, it's our money, it's our intelligence that they're using to do this. It's you know, America is, if you view this as a genocide, which I don't really use that word too often, but I do view it as like just horrific. And if you view it that way, there's no way that the U.S. isn't implicated. This only happens because the U.S. is funding and supporting this.
And if you want to get those activists to get outraged, it's something else other than that, when that's obviously the most pressing concern globally.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
They've spent a year doing that.
Also,
and it really hurt her.
These young kids, you think of the difference between 2016 and 2020 and then 2024, podcasts.
Huge.
Way different. They all listen to podcasts.
Yep.
Everybody gets clips. You hear opposing perspectives. You hear very intelligent people come on and make arguments that you're not hearing on TV anymore, and they get shared. Even if it's just shared clips on TikTok and YouTube Reel or YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, they're getting shared left and right, and you can't just keep a narrative going anymore. You can't.
Well,
it doesn't
that
work.
You know, like even this came up a bunch in when I was debating Chris Cuomo, but it's like even just the way they. You know, the way they talk about you, or like where it's like, oh, these bro culture guys or something like that. Like, I'm sorry. Objectively, this isn't an opinion. What happens on this show is so much more intelligent and thoughtful and deep than anything that's going on at CNN. You just can't tell me. You can't tell me that you sitting down with Elon Musk for 3 hours and then compare that to like Wolf Blitzer with all his graphics behind him, talking for 30 seconds before he goes to a pharmaceutical commercial and then coming back and having the dumbest left-winger yell at the dumbest right-winger. Really? And you guys are going to act like you're the grown grown-ups in the room. Like it's too ridiculous. And that's right. So the entire young generation they've all turned that off. None of them are getting their news from CNN anymore. No. And look, man, that's I think the most beautiful part of this election.
Yeah, mainstream media is dead.
Yeah, that
was a wrap, son. And certainly not comparable anymore. And if you look at the numbers, like what are the numbers that CNN has for a regular show compared to like the numbers of the Trump podcast?
I don't think they have a show that regularly cracks 1 million views.
The Instagram,
I think their biggest one is still under 1 million.
The Twitter, the X video that I posted, when I posted Elon on the podcast, between me and him, it got 65 million views in a day.
It's unbelievable. Dude.
In a day.
Yeah.
And that's not counting YouTube, which is like another, I don't know how many million he got on YouTube. That's not counting Spotify.
Yeah.
We don't even know those numbers yet because it was just 2 days ago.
Right.
65 between his account and my account. 65 million views.
And, you know, there was...
the X is the #1 news source on Earth.
Yeah.
On Earth. It's the most trusted because it's the only one that's not fucked with.
Yep.
So even if someone's incorrect, the community notes will correct them.
Yep.
The community notes are rock solid. It's a great way to find out what's real and what's not real. And then you look in the comments and you see people debating it. And it's happening in real time. And it's happening whenever something breaks. And it's way better than what you're going to get on corporate-controlled media. It's way better.
Elon Musk buying Twitter was at least as important as Trump winning. Election again, maybe more. Maybe the most important thing about Trump winning might be that he's able to stop them from coming after Elon Musk.
Well, that's a big factor, but I also think that Elon Musk buying Twitter, if that doesn't happen, I don't think Trump wins the way he wins.
Oh, 100%.
I think it's real tight. I think if he does win, it's barely. Okay, let's take podcasts out. He doesn't win at all. You take him being on Theo Vaughn, him being on me, him being on all these different Nelk Boys, all these different
Andrew Schultz.
Andrew Schultz, that was a big one. Flagrant was a big one because it got him to fuck around.
Yep.
You know, you see him laughing and joking around, and Schultz is joking with him. They're having a good time. That humanized him more. Do you see that Schultz, they fucking pulled his special from a theater 3 hours after the Trump thing got released?
Yeah, and then he did it at a bigger theater.
Of course.
Which, by the way, that's another thing that's changed. That's really a fascinating thing to me, right?
Yeah.
So I've watched this happen, and I know you have too, where the canceling stopped working. It was so effective.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it just stopped working. A big part of that is Elon Musk, for sure. But there's other factors involved in it, too. But I remember, like, there were guys in 2016, 2017, who were very much like in the national conversation, and they got straight up removed from that.
Milo
Yiannopoulos, a great example. When he went on Bill Maher, he killed it on Bill Maher. He killed it on your show.
Bill Maher compared him to Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah, he went, you're like a gay Christopher Hitchens or something like that. Yeah. So now, and then he made the other guys look like fools too. Then he gets taken down, and he went from being a guy who was like very much shaping the national conversation to being just removed from it. And there were other guys. No,
a bit of a drug problem there.
Yeah, I'm not even saying there weren't other factors involved, but there were a bunch of people like that who got removed.
Yeah.
And I do think, I think the tipping point was when they came for you and it failed. But it seems like around that time, it stopped working. Listen, I heard of Andrew Tate for the first time ever when he got canceled from everything.
Right.
That was when I found, I didn't know who he was before that. And then he was like, oh, the guy who got canceled for everything. And now he's bigger than he ever was. He was like the most Googled man from kickboxing.
My kid asked me about him. Because my kids were getting the little videos off of TikTok. This is before he got in real trouble, when he was just starting to the manosphere, and a bunch of young guys were resonating with it. She goes, what do you think about him? And I said, well, he's a legit kickboxer. Like, I used to watch him kickbox. He was in that organization, whatever organization, he was a champion. He's legit. He can fight, man.
Oh, yeah. I've seen videos of him fighting. He can really fight.
When he became like this manosphere influencer, I was like, okay, that kind of tracks. Kind of makes sense.
Right. Well, the thing that I found so interesting was just, and it happened with him. Great example is Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens.
Oh, yeah.
And then even the thing we were just saying about our boy Schultz. It's like these cancellation attempts, all of a sudden they went from like, oh my God, this could ruin you. So like it's making you stronger.
Did you see when Tony went on stage last night?
No.
Bro.
At the mothership?
Bro.
Oh,
It's like
dude,
Richard
I'm sure.
Pryor showed up.
Do you have video of the opening?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
that's
bananas.
awesome, dude.
They go nuts.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
go nuts when Tony's there.
This is the new dynamic now.
Yeah.
It's like the tool that they used to use to control the narrative is now losing them more and more of the narrative.
Not only that, Tony now has 35 minutes on the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
35
dude, that's
minutes
great.
on Puerto Rico. This whole thing. People at
Oh, is he going up tonight?
Oh yeah, I'll probably be up tonight.
I want to go watch that. I'd love to go watch
Bro,
that. That's the best thing
amazing.
in comedy, by the way. The best thing in comedy is like when there's like a huge thing and there's just something about like when they got new fresh stuff on the thing that just happened is just the best part of stand-up.
It's my favorite, like my N-word compilation joke.
Dude, I remember literally one of my favorite, like if I had to put a flag down on like 5 of my favorite moments since I've been in comedy, that show that we did at what's it called? The Vulcan.
Yeah.
It was before the mothership was opened, but it was the day after it came out. And it was amazing. There was something surreal about it. Watching you go on stage in the moment where you're like in the crosshairs of the biggest cancellation attempt, and then having you just do the bit on it is so goddamn good. I mean, you put it out on your last special,
yeah.
but watching it the next day after it had just happened was like there's just an energy about that you're just like, oh shit, dude, like this, and it was just amazing. It was an amazing show. It was
It's
so
an
cool to watch it.
opportunity to take something and turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
Like take this moment and create a bit out of it.
Oh, dude, my favorite show of the year was I happened to be doing a weekend at the mothership when Trump got shot. I mean, I was leaving my hotel to walk over to the mothership, and then just all of a sudden my phone started blowing up, like text, all this, and I was like, what the fuck happened here? And then I pulled the video, it was like, oh shit. And then that show, whatever the early show on that day, man, if people were there, it was just the most fun. It's the most fun part of stand-up where you're almost just like, you go like, well, forget what I thought we were going to be talking about today, because now we're going in a whole new direction. What am I going to go up there and not talk about this for a half hour?
Right.
How is that possible?
How is it possible?
Especially for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, I've got to go do this. And it's just something beautiful. That's the best part of stand-up comedy, man.
It's a great part. And if you're there live, it's so fun. It's so fun when you know someone is talking about something that just happened. It's so fun.
And I've gotten like messages and tweets and stuff like that, like from people who were at that show. I'll still get like, like someone will like come up and just be like, dude, I was at that show at that time. I'm like, yeah, that was a good one, man.
It's a crazy
that was a good
moment.
one.
You don't get a whole lot of moments like that where the president almost gets fucking iced. And then all the nutty people trying to say he staged his assassination attempt so that he could regain the White House, that it was a propaganda attempt. Those are the nuttiest of left-wing people. You think flat earthers are nuts.
Yeah.
You think a 78-year-old guy is going to allow some dude with iron sights to shoot and nick his ear from 140 yards away?
Well, also another guy did get killed.
Yeah.
There. It seems
And
pretty
more
real.
than one person got shot.
Yeah. I really wonder if Trump's going to try to get to the bottom of that stuff,
I
or
don't
if
know
maybe
how
he
far
just
he can get in
doesn't
there.
want to even push it.
It's hard to know what happened there, but he seems like a Lee Harvey Oswald type dude. He seems like a guy that they set up.
Well,
There's a lot to that story.
there's both stories with both of the assassination attempts are very fishy. There's just something that just
but
doesn't add up.
the one
about
with
all of it.
Crooks is the most fishy. Did you see the video of his dad? His dad leaving Costco. So he's got Costco with a whole full cart of stuff, and there's a dude who's with him who's wearing gloves and a mask and sunglasses and a hoodie. And this guy's helping him. He's wearing gloves.
Yeah.
So he's not leaving any fingerprints anywhere. It's the weirdest look. This guy's, and this is like recent, right? So this is in the heart of COVID, where someone
I don't know
a nutty
when it
person
was.
who would
Yeah.
dress like this. It was really recent.
Well, yeah, I think so.
The assassination attempt was only a few months ago.
Yeah.
So you have Crook's dad, and his dad is pushing this shopping cart, and you got this dude who's with him, who's like in full disguise with gloves. It's very weird.
Well, look, I mean, so there's the first one where you have this guy is able, and you can see this is all on videotape. This guy is walking around scoping out that roof.
Look at this.
I don't think he's wearing gloves. I think he's just wearing. He's got his hoodie covering his hands a little bit, right there. You can still
Oh,
see
they're
his
not
fingers.
gloves?
No, I don't think so.
Why do I think he wears gloves?
He is covering everything else up though.
You sure he's not wearing gloves? Okay, he's got his.
Yeah, I
hoodie
see
over
why
his
you
hands.
thought that though. It's a weird look for sure.
He's covering his fucking hands.
Yeah, he is covering his hands.
Okay,
with
so they're
his
not gloves.
sweatshirt.
So he's got a full mask on. He's got sunglasses on and a hoodie, and it's nighttime. And this guy is okay. So no gloves, but it's just
But very weird,
bizarre, very bizarre. Obviously, the guy doesn't want people to know who he is because he's with the father of the guy who tried to kill the fucking president.
Well, the fact that somebody could be able to get up on that roof with a rifle 130 yards away from the president, and then all the excuses that they made absolutely no sense. It was too sloped of a roof.
The
and all
lady
this.
didn't want to step down.
Yeah, this is all very strange. And then the second one, you've got a guy who has a felony conviction for possession of weapons of mass destruction, where he barricaded himself while police were pursuing him with like explosives or something. I mean, is that
what he did?
Yeah, the charge was weapons of mass destruction. I remember that because I didn't even realize that was a charge. I thought that was just something Bush lied about, but evidently there's a real criminal.
So he had bombs. Like
yeah,
suicide
yeah.
bombs?
I don't know exactly what they were, but I know that was the charge, and it was a felony. And then this motherfucker is recruiting for the Ukrainian war effort and is going back and forth to an active war zone, trying to recruit Afghan fighters to fight in the war on the Ukrainian side. And then he comes back and tries to assassinate Donald Trump. And then the entire national conversation is like, is the rhetoric about Donald Trump too far? And you're like, listen, man, I'm not saying it's not plausible that if you call the guy Hitler every day, maybe some, deranged young person will be like, I'm going to take out Hitler. But when this guy is going and recruiting for the Ukrainian war effort, this doesn't sound to me like someone radicalized by Joy Reid.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
This sounds like something a little deeper is going on. And then there is much like with Jeffrey Epstein, right? There is no desire amongst the supposed journalist class to even look into it.
And then his son gets hit with child porn charges.
Yeah.
So, like, if his son knew anything about what was going
Right.
on, no one's going to listen to him now.
Yep.
Fucking guy's jerking off to kids fucking.
It's just, look, at the very least, it's very bizarre. And when
Yeah.
you have a guy, I'm not saying I've got like a case I could present in front of a jury and get a conviction, but when you've got a guy who has been targeted by the regime unlike any other political figure in American history, well, let's say since Kennedy.
but more so because he just survived an assassination
Yeah.
attempt. Kennedy got shot. But the attacks on him, the lawfare attacks, are unprecedented. The weaponizing of the legal system in front of everybody's eyes, like trying to find a crime.
Yeah, no, that's right. And so all of that, and then you see these multiple attempts happen. You'd be crazy to not at least want to have like some real investigation into this, some interest in looking at this and all that.
Press conference.
Yeah.
How about one press conference about crooks? How about tell me what you know? Did you get a toxicology examination, or did you just burn the body?
Yeah, and
Why
you can't
did
get we can't get into his phone. He had no social media footprint. Come on, dude.
His apartment was professionally scrubbed.
Yeah,
Didn't even have silverware in his house.
Yeah, it's all just very strange. So I wonder now that Trump's back in, does he look into that? And I'm not even saying I just want Trump to end the war. Listen, if Donald Trump, if he secures the border and if he ends the war in Ukraine, secures the border, and
ramps up oil production inside the United States.
does something to help the economy, put him on Mount Rushmore. Like that's enough, man. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like that's enough for it. But I am curious. Like I wonder where he is.
I always wanted to be on Mount Rushmore. I believe I deserve it.
And I'll say we kick one of them off. Well, we're not making more room.
Phase.
You guys, we could take a vote.
Can't you imagine?
I'll tell you.
You imagine the fucking sock hats screaming in the street if they changed Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, TJ stays, but I'm thinking Lincoln's got to go.
No, Lincoln's the man. Lincoln was a wrestler. Keep him.
Well, all right. fine.
Giant freak of a man,
He
probably
was
gay.
He was a giant freak of a man, and definitely, I think, spent a lot of time in cabins with other dudes.
I think everybody was gay back then. That's what I think.
It's possible.
I think there was a lot of gayness back then, and you know, I base this on ancient cultures like Afghanistan, all the gay shit they do.
Well, you also got to think, like, if you're in a world without like plumbing and toothbrushes and razors, fucking a man or fucking a woman, not that much different. Not a whole lot different at that point, dude.
Especially if you're in a trench.
Yeah, it's at that point you're basically like you're having sex with an animal is what you're doing.
But so many warriors in the past were gay. Like samurais did a lot of gay stuff.
Yeah.
Spartans did a lot of gay stuff. A lot of gay stuff.
Well, it's one of the things that I think we've kind of found out with the trans stuff over the last few years is that it's like there are cultural norms that you can set up where people will do a lot of stuff that you might consider to be very like bizarre. And it's very easy when you don't have those cultural parameters to be like, no one would do that just because you made it like acceptable.
Prison.
Yeah, exactly.
We're so gross. If you leave us alone with no one but us, we just fuck each other.
Yeah.
That's how gross we are.
And it's also and it's like a punchline in a weird way. Like it's just nothing like...
It's also the one kind of rape you can hope someone gets.
Yeah. You know, that was actually...
I hope he gets raped in prison.
Kurt Metzger made this point. I remember it was sometime during like the Me Too movement. Oh, I know what it was. It was when... did you ever see the Law and Order episode where they did like the Me Too comic?
No.
It's the most ridiculous thing ever, dude. It was just in the, you know, Law and Order, they just got to bang out a half-hour show like every other day or whatever. Yeah, so it was at the height of like cancel culture, Me Too, and all this stuff. And so the theme, I'm not exaggerating this, okay? The theme is there's a shop comic, and he's making all these rape jokes. And now, of course, they do it in a way like as if this would work at a comedy club. Like you're just like, hey, you, I hope you get raped. And the crowd's like, yeah, yeah. So they're at a comedy club. I believe it was filmed at the Comic Strip Live. I think it was there. I'm not sure. But it was at a comedy club. He's doing this. So some girls get up and they walk out because they're very uncomfortable with like, oh, my God, these rape jokes are not funny, blah, blah. Then the girl leaves, gets raped. Turns out it was the rape comic who rapes her. And that's it's the most ridiculous, like, goddamn story ever. But this was an episode of Law & Order. And then Kurt just he made the point that he goes, you know, on this show, it's just a regular thing that they threaten men with rape. Like every single time they're like interrogating someone, they go, guys like you don't do very well in prison. You know what I mean? And it's always just like the threat of like, we will put you in a rape torture dungeon if you don't do X, Y, and Z. And I thought it was like a really brilliant point that's just totally acceptable.
It's totally acceptable.
Threatening a man with rape, guys like you don't do very well in prison is a common like saying, and we all know what that means. They're saying you will be anally raped against your will. But whatever, you're a dude. So who cares?
My friend was telling me about the American Taliban guy. Mm-hmm. You know, that guy that went over to join the Taliban? Mm-hmm. He said they raped that guy like 1,000 times. He said, like, that guy was a prisoner over there for like 4 years, and they just raped him continuously. And he said when he was working overseas, when he was deployed, he said you'd see guys raping guys all the time. Yeah. There was this one very slow guy that worked in the kitchen. These guys were lined up to rape this guy. There was one guy who had a colostomy bag, and the guy kept getting sick. He had to get medevaced. He's like, he'd get infected. It would go. They found out they were fucking the hole where the bag goes into his side. Guys were fucking the hole where his colostomy bag gets inserted.
That's not cool.
Yeah, but when you have a culture that says like men can't have sex with women except to procreate, and the women have to be dressed up in a certain way, and
it's not good.
You leave them alone with themselves.
It's very Freudian, man.
And it's old.
You
it's
repress
an old culture.
No, this is the Freudian observation, which is a very brilliant one. However people feel about Freud, it's like you repress, you know, certain desires, and they reemerge in much darker ways. Yeah. You know, there's just like you have to have a release valve. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like human beings go into very, very dark places.
Well, it's just people don't react well to other people telling them what to do. And when I was in high school, the thing was Catholic school girls were always freaks. Right. Like Catholic school girls were wild because they didn't get to be around any boys ever. They were just at school with girls. They're all dressed in skirts, and they're all told that they're all those desires that they have, their body's going through puberty, and they're just horny all the time, that they're bad.
Yeah.
And then they can't wait to get along with a guy like
And
that.
as again, same thing. Like you repress it in one area, it reemerges in a
Right.
much uglier way than if you had
Catholic
just
priests.
been. Exactly.
That's the best example of it emerging in the creepier way. And
Well,
you know
you
why
can't-
they did that with Catholic priests?
Why?
Because the priests were like rock stars. They were fucking everybody. So
Yeah,
they said, you
yeah.
can't have sex anymore. You can't get married.
But imagine saying to like a grown man that you can't ever have sex or jerk off. That's the expectation. The expectation is that you're supposed to never come.
And they
Like,
would
what-
give you medication so that you couldn't get hard. They'd give you saltpeter.
Yeah, you're gonna draw. You're gonna. If that's the job to sign up to, you're gonna draw in some weird people who want to sign up to that
most
job.
twisted.
You know
what was that? What's that stuff called? Is it called saltpeter? Is that what they used to give them to make sure that they stayed impotent? Kills their sexual desires.
Oh, I don't know. I don't.
It's
Never
probably
heard of this.
Fucking poison. I mean, what's doing
Probably,
that?
yeah.
What's doing that? What's killing your? It's killing your testosterone, killing your sex hormones. What else is it doing? How depressed are you?
Yeah, that can't be good.
How many of them are alcoholics? You ever go to a Catholic church and you see the guy speaking, the whatever he is, bishop, whatever the fuck he is, big stupid blown up nose because it's just like he's got gin blossoms all over his face. He gets hammered every day. He lives in hell.
Yeah.
He lives in hell. He's probably a closeted gay guy that took this fucking job 45 years ago, and now he's like, this is my life. Now I'm 60. Here I am. Like, what am I doing with myself?
Yeah, and I've
What's that
talked to.
saltpeter stuff, Jamie? Did you find it? What is saltpeter used for, and is it true it reduces certain carnal urges? The second part of the question is easy to answer. Saltpeter, the term refers to either potassium or sodium nitrate, has no effect on carnal urges. The story that this chemical is put into soldiers' food to decrease their sex drive is a total myth. But what about for priests? That's what I had heard. So is it one of those things that they thought did that? Symptoms can range from double vision and difficulty in swallowing to paralysis and death. The spores of this organism lurk in many foods under the right conditions, lack of oxygen, low acidity, becomes active and liberate their toxin. Sausages are the classic example of a type of food that can be affected. And the word botulism, in fact, derives from the Latin botulus, meaning sausage. What? So this botulism, scroll back up again. I feel like I picked this up at a weird place. Serious aspects of saltpeter. One of the most deadly substances known to mankind is produced by Clostridium botulinum bacteria, 7 million times more toxic than cobra venom. Botulin poisons its victims by blocking the actions of neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Symptoms can range. Okay, so this is the symptoms from botulism. Does saltpeter come from botulism? So one of the serious aspects of is one of the most deadly substances known to mankind is this botulism bacteria. Okay, botulism can be prevented by the appropriate use of sodium nitrate, discovery that actually became about in an accidental fashion. Salting of meat is an ancient method of preservation based on the ability of sodium chloride to kill bacteria by drawing out much of their water content. About 500 years ago, some clever cook noted that the effectiveness of salt in preserving meat depends upon its source. Furthermore, salt that worked particularly well improved the meat's flavor and color. Okay, the secret turned out to be an impurity, potassium nitrate, more familiar known as saltpeter. Okay, so this is how they came up with it to combat botulism. Okay, now what about how does saltpeter work? What's the point of it? Why would people take it? I don't understand. What's it say?
You wanted about priests, correct? Was the original thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Because this is what we had always heard when we were kids, that they would give priests saltpeter to suppress their carnal urges. So here it says, saltpeter known for used for many purposes in the past, including as a curing agent, key compound of gunpowder.
Man, this stuff does everything.
Yeah, but what about sexual urges? They debunked the myth about saltpeter lowering libido or sex drive. It's false. It's a myth that's been going around for years. The myth started when, what does it say? Let's hear where the myth started when.
I wouldn't go with QR. Let's try military times.
Okay, but if you see that where it says there, top answer.
I know those are all Quora things. Those are message boards essentially.
Right, but I would just like to see what that person on the message board says. I think it's kind of interesting. The myth started with the military. See this article from Snopes. Popular myth promoted by youngsters in boarding schools. Interesting. Summer camps as well as men in the military and prison. Some boys or men use this as an excuse for sexual performance problems. Doctors and pharmacists have debunked the myth about saltpeter lowering the libido, prostate, or sex drive. It's false. Even if some ignorant random prison did this to a group of inmates, they've proven it would not have the negative effects people keep saying it does.
But that doesn't prove that they didn't do it.
Right.
They're just saying it wouldn't work.
It doesn't work. So maybe they like tried to use it against, maybe it was like a theoretical thing that they thought was gonna, like wasn't that like Spanish Fly? Do you remember Spanish Fly?
Yeah. That's
like
the one Cosby bragged about, right?
Yes.
That's the creepiest tape ever.
The creepiest. He had a bit about it.
Oh. And then he did an episode
about
it. They did an episode with his like barbecue sauce or something like that.
His special barbecue sauce to get everybody horny.
What a weird. How did, by the way, no one, I guess in the 80s people had a lot of blinders on, but he was like, hey, I got an idea for the episode. Like maybe it's like, we're doing, the Huxtable family, and I just make my barbecue sauce, and all the chicks want to fuck. You're like, wait, what?
Nutty.
Why would you do that on the show?
A family sitcom?
I thought we were going to do like Theo gets in a fight, and then we have to talk to him about like keeping his grades up.
The importance of homework.
Yeah, right? Like it was just so out of the ordinary for what that show was. And he's like, nah, listen, I'm the star, and it really means a lot to me that we do this episode. Like,
how strange. So I think Spanish Fly was another myth that people thought was real. And I remember hearing about it when I was a kid, that you could give a girl a thing, whatever this Spanish Fly was. What's the origin of Spanish Fly?
I stumbled across something crazy about this saltpeter stuff.
Yeah?
I'm trying to read it. I was trying to read through it fast so I could give you a quick answer. There is a job, it says in like Sweden, I had to transfer this, saltpeter welder, profession whose task consists of collecting urine-soaked earth in order to make more saltpeter because they used it in ammunition. So they had these barns where, I guess it says here, pissing men. I was trying to get it here.
Wow. And that's how they make gunpowder?
Yeah, you'd piss on the ground into the soil, and then they'd get enough of that stuff together finally, and then you could make some gunpowder out of it.
How much experimentation did it take to figure out that, like, no, listen, dude. Hey, listen, if I piss on the ground, I can make gunpowder. You'd be like, how'd you figure that out? And you're like, listen, dude, it's a long story, all right? I was doing a lot of stuff this weekend.
What year was this? 1830?
The 1600s.
1600s they figured this out?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That is wild.
Yeah,
Hold on, stop. Scroll back up a little bit. What does it say here? All peasants, the priests made sure that no one was forgotten, were forced to deliver their imposed quota of saltpeter soil, along with ash, wood, and coal, to the nearest simmering plant. The obligation was replaced in 1634 by a saltpeter tax. The saltpeter Jews, it's always the Jews, now instead came to collect the soil themselves from under the farmers' barns. The saltpeter tax was replaced in 1801 by an obligation for each mantle to annually supply 1/2, what does that say, LI pound of saltpeter to the state. What does that mean?
Yeah, this was transferred or
what is LI pound?
Swedish.
Oh, okay. 1830, the saltpeter tax ceased entirely. The farmers were required to have wooden floors in the barns in order for this saltpeter formation to take place. They were required to have wooden. This is crazy. The peasants complained about these impositions and about the visits of the suds. The simmering lasted annually from May 1st to September 29th. The simmering continued for 6 to 7 days or until an egg could float on the surface. At this time, lime and ash were added, which caused the included common salt to crystallize and could thus be removed. The whole thing was then allowed to cool down to about 25 degrees when the saltpeter began to crystallize. The raw saltpeter was then transported to the gunpowder mills. The boilers had to have the right to take fuel for the cooking.
Does that mean that they made like a little pond of pee? Urine, and then they poured chemicals on it.
It sounds like they had a
little pond.
I don't know what it would be. It says it's simmering, but
they must have had a vat of it. They must have had like a big cauldron of piss.
That's
piss dirt that they cooked until you could float an egg on the surface.
Oh, dude.
What? Bro, how did someone figure it out? To your point, how?
We're so lucky we live now.
Oh my God.
I don't want to live in the time where I got to pissed on the dirt to make
by the
gunpowder.
way, people are going to be saying that about in the future about this time. God,
That's
thank
true.
God we didn't live in the time where they were fucking the whole country was at war over the stupidest shit and
Yeah.
controlled by this media that was completely controlled by corporations, and everybody was being gaslit, and people willingly gaslit themselves.
I've always felt the one, you know, if you could try to guess, like just say if we survive and things improve morally, like what we would look back on and be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And the two to me were always, was always war and prison, and especially like nonviolent, you know, like
Yes.
prisoners, like, but even violent prisoners, you'd almost think like, well, they didn't figure anything else out.
Right.
Like they didn't figure anything else out other than, but the idea of like putting non-violent, like victimless criminals in a fucking cage,
Right.
like human beings, you just throw them in a cage. It's slavery, dude. Like
Not
that's
just that, but you profit off of it?
Yeah.
So you have private prisons that are actually a corporation that lobby to make sure that certain laws stay on the books so that you could keep your prisons stocked with live people that are essentially batteries that generate money for you?
and just the fact that that's still going on while we have all of these technological advancements, and you know, like if you go, you know, you go down to like St. Jude's or something like that, and they're like, dude, they have all of this technology because all of these brilliant people are here to save babies' lives. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's going on,
Yep.
and then also there's war still.
Yeah.
Like we haven't figured out a different way. Like everybody doesn't just agree. Like, listen, obviously, to just go on mass slaughter campaigns and have nothing but destruction is in nobody's interest. So here's how we're going to solve
Right.
these conflicts. Like it's just, it does seem that like if human beings survive for another 100 years and we, you know, are at a higher moral level, we would look back at that the way we look back at, you know, witch hunts or
100%.
like slavery or something like that, and be like,
100%.
that's insane. That people were so evil, you know, that they would like they could do such evil stuff.
And then we can do such evil stuff in the age of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like very hard. And maybe we are like moving in that direction where, you know, it does seem for sure. I think that the fact that the war in Gaza has had more images come out of
Yes.
it than any other conflict.
Yes.
That's a huge part of the reason why there's so much
Right.
protest
The advent of
against it.
technology that's everywhere. Everyone has a cell phone.
Very hard. Very hard. I think me and you might have talked about that last time I was on, right? But it's like even the war in Iraq, which is not ancient history, you know, it was still going on. I mean, secondly, we still got troops there now. But
Right.
like the video footage that would come out would be like, you know, it almost looked like a firework, like kind of exploding, which is, that's easy to see and root for. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah, good guys kicking ass. But when you're seeing a baby being pulled out of rubble who is just suffocated to death, oh, that's tough, dude.
Tents on fire that
Yeah,
were hit by
that's-
missiles.
That's really,
Yeah.
really tough,
Yeah.
dude. It's really tough to find a way. Yep, there's still people out there who will find a way to try to justify it, but it's tough. It's much tougher.
Well, that's sort of the divide today. The divide today is objective reality versus what have you been saying. There's objective reality versus you have a narrative. The narrative is Israel has to defeat Hamas. Hamas is using human shoulders, human shields rather. That's the narrative. The objective reality is blown apart children, and not just one, like tens of thousands of innocent people dead.
Dude, I was just watching this this interview. I'm blanking on the doctor's name, but it was Dave DeCamp. Was interviewing him, who's, by the way, phenomenal. One of the best reporters in the country. DeCamp Dave, DeCamp Dave is his Twitter handle. He's phenomenal.
I'll follow him right now. How about that?
He's great, dude. He's great. Okay. He's one of he's over at antiwar.com. He's what, like Scott Horton's guy. By the way, my guy Scott Horton just gave you and Jamie a copy of the book.
Yes.
Unprovoked is going to be out, I think, in the next week or so. I'm sorry, Provoked. I didn't mean to say unprovoked. It's provokedbook.com, the best book written on the history of the Ukraine-Russia conflict and how America just blew it at every single opportunity. Anyway, so Dave DeCamp was interviewing this guy who's a doctor. He's an American who went over to Gaza. He was a doctor, and he had been. There was a big piece in the New York Times written about this, where he said that every day that he was there, every single day, they'd treat toddlers with bullets to the head. That they were just constantly seeing this. And then he says that he also talked to a whole bunch of other, so his working theory on this was, but when he first started seeing this, so he's in this one area in Gaza, and he was embedded there for a few months working at a hospital, and he figured there was like some lone sadistic sniper out there. You know what I mean? Like these things happen in war. But then he started talking to doctors from all other points of Gaza who were there at all different times who all said the same thing, that they're getting toddlers with And then when the New York Times published this, they a bunch of people who were defending Israel started being like, this isn't true, blah, 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 the Israeli most moral fighting force in the world. So he published the x-rays. He's like, okay, I'm a doctor. I have the x-rays right here. And he published them. It's just 100% is happening. Like, it's just...
So what is happening?
I mean, Israel's been on a mass slaughter campaign of a captive people for over a year now, And
they're shooting babies.
Evidently. I mean, there's a doctor he's an American, he's claiming it happened, and he has x-rays. So, yeah, it seems like that's what's going on there. And I mean, look, it's obviously just so horrific, man. The whole thing. So it's really amazing to me the way people will rationalize and justify what Israel's doing. It takes so much mental gymnastics. And it's always got to like rely on, it lets you know, it's like, oh, so I get it. You see, it's like, oh, how human beings through all of human history have had slavery and genocides and ethnic cleansing campaigns. And at every step, there's someone there who's willing to justify it and explain why we have to do this because this is the only way. And really, we're acting in defense. That's what they all claim. That's what the Nazis claim. It's what they all claim. They're really acting in defense.
Jesus Christ.
But
again, we're going to look back on this time. The way people look back on concentration camps, the way people look back on the Mongol campaign, the way people look back on the Inquisition, we're going to go, how? How did they do this?
How were you allowed to just like... And it's amazing the way people can compartmentalize it, too. You know what I mean? Like, it could just be like, hey, there's somebody who could be a totally loving dad and a good husband and all like that, but then can go to war and commit, like, unspeakable horrors on other people. Yeah. It's just like they put that over here, It's very hard to think about that or understand it. But
unless you talk to someone who's done it, and it's this is one of the most important things, the messages that I want to get to Trump, and one of the things that I'm excited that Bobby Kennedy is interested in this as well is psychedelic therapy for veterans. I think if there's a way to understand the benefits of psychedelic therapy for everybody, the real pathway is through veterans who I think are the most needing of it, the most deserving of it, the most neglected in terms of the horrors that they experience and having to carry this around their mind, and that there's a way that many people have experienced relief and it's not available to them. And it's not something that's dangerous. It's not something that's addictive. You literally can't. You can't even eat enough psilocybin to kill yourself. It's not even.
Oh yeah.
You can't do it. You wouldn't be able to consume
it. It's impossible.
So why?
And it's been demonstrated to really help at least a lot.
Here's what's most important. All of it became illegal in the Sweeping Psychedelics Act of 1970 that was designed by the Nixon administration so that they could demonize anti-war protesters. So they could arrest anti-war protesters, civil rights protesters, the Black Panthers. They made all that stuff illegal because all these counterculture people were all using that to completely change the programming that they received in society.
Think about the irony of that, like the deep, deep irony that they made this stuff illegal because they thought if it was out there, they wouldn't be able to get their wars. So they make it illegal and they get their wars. And then it turns out that this is the thing that helps the people that are traumatized coming back from war, but you can't have it because it's illegal.
Well, it's the clearest shift in culture.
Is that irony? It's something like that.
It is irony. It is irony because it's the pathway to help for a lot of these guys that come back. You ask them to do unspeakable things in modern society that are against the law. law and you force them to do it. You go force them to go kill people. They see their friends killed.
Yeah.
And then they come back here and there's no tools. When there are tools. But they have to go to Mexico to utilize these tools. They have to go to Costa Rica and the Amazon. They have to go to all these different places because it's illegal in the very place that sent them over there. The very place that tells them it's legal for you to go kill people that you've never met, but it's not legal for you to take psilocybin that might help you get over the fact that you killed people.
Yeah. I know my my buddy Michael Heiss, who he just started a media company called Dissident Media. He's been big on this. He's like an activist who's been working on like the decriminalization of psilocybin for years, and that's one of the major reasons because it helps these soldiers so much.
We need to be kinder, all of us, to each other. We need to, at this moment in time, especially. And I've seen a lot of people saying we have to just accept the results, which I think is wonderful. We do have to accept the results. But also we have to remember that we are one team. This is Team USA, and there's plenty of room for everybody. We all want the same things. We all want to be healthy. We want to protect our loved ones. We want to be safe, and we want to prosper. Everybody wants the same thing. You want to be able to do what you want. You want to be able to have a happy life and a healthy life. This is the one shot that we get at this experience. We can all do this together. We can all do this. And one of the ways that people can come to these conclusions and realize that we're all connected is through psychedelics. I'm not saying that they're a perfect pathway. I'm not saying that it's good for everybody. I think it's dangerous for some people, particularly people that have a hard time with regular reality. If regular reality is slippery for you, if you have psychiatric conditions, maybe that's not the thing for you. But for most of us, it would benefit us. And we should have been exploring this, and it was stopped 54 fucking years ago by a corrupt government that wanted to squash anti-war protests. Yeah. That car that I showed you when I was explaining to you.
Such a cool car.
That car exists because of drugs.
Yeah.
The ones afterwards suck.
Yeah.
The reason why the ones afterwards suck is that's a 1969 Nova. When you get into the 1970s, cars turned to dog shit. It's exactly after they cut off the psychedelics.
No one's making a good car on cocaine. You need the psychedelics to make a cool car. Yeah.
All the designs, they all turn to shit.
Yep.
The classic cars are cars from the 60s and the 70s and the early 70s. That's what people want. Nobody wants 80s cars.
Yeah.
They don't want them. They're worth nothing. Like, nobody gives a shit about them.
Very
but you find a 1969 Corvette, you look at it, you're like, whoa, look at that thing. Because their designers were doing drugs, man.
Yeah.
They were wild people. They were artists. The music. Look at the music between the 1960s and then go into the 1980s. Like, what the fuck happened?
Yep.
We had Hendrix and the Doors and the Beatles. We had this wild experimental stuff.
Yeah, and if you've ever done psychedelics, you listen to that music and you're like, oh, I know what inspired this.
Oh, yeah.
This is pretty easy to
the
tell.
Entire Grateful Dead catalog.
Yeah,
It's all
come on,
psychedelically inspired. And you almost have to be on psychedelics to appreciate them. That all was squashed by this desire to stop people from protesting in a horrible, unjust war.
Yeah. And look, man, I mean, I think that's a great message to get to Trump. Like, let these guys, like, they were like the bravest amongst us who got totally tricked and bribed and propagandized into going to these wars, and then they come back and they're blowing their brains out by the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
And there's just something that might help.
Yeah.
That is very low risk of almost no risk of like actually hurting, and it really might help.
No risk of addiction.
But even better than that, man, would just be keep us out of these wars.
Keep us out of these fucking
Let's just not
wars.
fight them, man. Let's just, and look, I will say, this is one of the things that I'm really optimistic about, is that of that team that we were talking about earlier that Donald Trump's got around him, you know, all those people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and J.D. Vance and Tucker Carlson and all these guys, David Sachs. David Sachs is probably the best. They're so good on Ukraine. Every one of them. Like, they're all just like, yeah, no, this makes no sense. This is such a clear-cut situation where you could easily make a deal. Vladimir Putin, and I know I've talked about this on past shows, and anybody, go listen to those and go read Scott Horton's amazing book, Provoked. But just very quickly, it is all but accepted at this point. Nobody's even debate. When I first came on, the first podcast that we talked about Ukraine, whatever, a few years ago now, when I said, oh, there was a peace deal, like that was agreed to in principle by Ukraine and Russia, and then Boris Johnson came in to on behalf of the U.S. to make sure they didn't negotiate a peace and kept the war going. There were a bunch of people who were like, "Oh, that's not true," and blah blah blah. And now it's just been totally like that. 100%, I was right about that. They had a peace deal worked out, and then since then, the guy whose name I always butcher, but it's Norwegian, so I don't know how to. Strasselberger, the head of NATO. He came out and said, and he was bragging, but he goes, Vladimir Putin, before he invaded Ukraine, told us that if we just put it in writing that we would not bring Ukraine into NATO, that he wouldn't invade. And we told him no, because we won't be bullied by you. So he's like bragging about how they had an opportunity. All they had to do was say, we will not bring your biggest neighbor into our military alliance, which is very clearly against you. The most reasonable demand. Now, I'm not saying it's reasonable that he invaded. That's not reasonable. Right. But it is a totally reasonable demand if the U.S. was to say, no, Mexico can't be a part of China's military alliance.
Seems super reasonable.
So he's got so many great people around him on that, but it's not exactly the same with the Israel-Gaza war, where it seems like a lot of the people around him are not so great on that. Some of them are. Some of them are really good on that. But I'm really hoping
organize a podcast with you, me, and him.
Now you're speaking my language.
Let's go, Dave Smith.
Dude, let's do it.
Let's go.
Listen, I voted for him. I've been supporting him and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I would love to do that. But whether it's me or not, I just hope that he gets the message through somehow. And I know it's a complicated thing to navigate because Israel has a lot of influence on our government, and he's got people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Tucker Carlson, who really are non-interventionists and don't want to see American taxpayer dollars being used to fund wars around the world, no matter who it's for. It's just like, hey, we're broke. We got our own problems here, and we can't afford to do this. But then he also has Miriam Adelson, who cut him $100 million and is probably going to give another $100 or $200 million to congressional candidates in the next midterm election and all of this. And she is singularly focused on one issue. And that issue is that we always unconditionally and unwaveringly support Israel, no matter what they're doing.
We're going to set up that conversation.
Let's do it, bro.
We're going to set that up. Dave Smith, you're a fucking national treasure. Now, you really are. You're a national treasure. You're so important. And the fact that you can talk about these things, you have such great recall, but you're also funny, is so important. I'm so happy you're out there.
Well, thank you. And that means a lot to me, particularly just because it's coming from you, dude. And I'm like, dude, I've been so goddamn impressed with you since well before I ever knew you. And I'll tell you, after the last couple weeks, dude, I'm like, I just can't even believe it. I can't even believe it's real, dude. But thank you. Thank you for having me again.
My pleasure. And anytime. We'll do it again. Thanks.
Hell yeah, dude.
We wrapped it up. All right. Bye, everybody.